Chapter 109. Terrifying Human-Eating Bugs. Chapter 109. Terrifying Human-Eating Bugs. Guillermo looked at the swarm dashing for the yellow-dressed lady. He didn't even think before charging at the girl with his fastest speed. Just a few seconds before the bugs came, Guillermo carried the yellow-dressed lady and ran. As though discovering that the yellow-dressed woman was saved by Guillermo, these bugs were actually enraged, and they all swarmed towards Guillermo, although the ordinary bugs couldn't keep up with Guillermo. Those thousands that have eaten human flesh evolved to have an extremely rapid pace. They weren't any bit slower than Guillermo. Perhaps they were even a little bit faster. However, what made Guillermo shocked the most was that these few thousands bugs could actually half-fly, half-walk at their fastest. If they were to eat more human meat, would they grow out wings? Guillermo suddenly thought of locusts. If these bugs grew wings and flew out everywhere, then it would be a catastrophe. No one would be able to stop these bugs. Suddenly, Guillermo remembered the human-eating bugs in the desert. Were these them? The bag of the yellow-dressed girl in his arms had long vanished. Her hair was messy, and her face cover was slanted, showing half of her immaculate face. Just that almost made Guillermo lose himself. When he saw this girl with her face covered a few days ago, he was already astounded. But now that he saw half of her face, he felt even more astonished. There was actually such a woman in the world. However, Guillermo couldn't care with that now because the bugs were getting closer and closer. With his current pace, those bugs would catch up with him sooner or later. Guillermo was also getting more and more worried. If a few thousand bugs caught up with him, and he was forced to a fight, those countless other bugs behind them would also catch up, let alone his current second-level chi gathering. Even if he was at the third level, he would still get devoured. If he wasn't carrying someone, Guillermo certainly had the means to escape. However, it was impossible for him to drop the yellow-dressed lady. Not only did he have good feelings towards this girl, but she also saved him. If it were to reduce the load, he could only drop his bag. At this moment, the yellow-dressed lady opened her eyes. Realizing that she was in Guillermo's arms, she struggled a bit, but soon discovered the tens of millions of bugs chasing behind them. She raised her head and saw Guillermo's face full of sweat, as well as the bugs that were closing in. For the first time, she opened her mouth and said, "Thank you. Put me down and save yourself." Although her voice was weak, the crystal-clear sound it produced almost made Guillermo think that he was hearing a heavenly hymn. "Stop saying that. These bugs are so disgusting. If I drop you down, even if you're not scared of death, you would be disgusted to death." Guillermo knew it was useless to threaten this girl with death. Surprisingly, the yellow-dressed lady seemed to take in Guillermo's words and immediately stopped talking. Guillermo felt relieved. Luckily, this girl could actually talk. This meant that she wasn't a mute. After a long time, the yellow-dressed lady said, "I'm Luo Susu." "Luo Susu?" Guillermo repeated. Why did she have the same last name as his master? But immediately after, Guillermo heard the chick-chick behind him and replied, "I'm Guillermo." "Guillermo," the yellow-dressed lady repeated. Hearing the sound of the bugs, which were closing anything, she didn't say anything. She repeated the name as though to remember the person who risked his life to save her, although they would probably will still die in the end. Guillermo couldn't leave the girl behind. Watching the closing bugs, Guillermo had no other choice but to drop his bag. He took out 2 bottles of pills, the brush Chi Wanqing gave him, the purple heart vine, and the silver heat grass seeds. Then, after thinking for a moment, he took out another empty bottle before throwing the bag. Soon, the bag was bitten into oblivion by the millions of bugs. However, these bugs didn't even stop and continued to chase after Guillermo. Without the cumbersome bag, Guillermo's speed increased a lot, and eventually it was about the same as the bugs. Guillermo couldn't get rid of them, but they couldn't catch Guillermo either. Only Guillermo knew that with the current situation, he was at a disadvantage. These bugs could run for a few days, but he couldn't. With him carrying Luo Susu, perhaps a few hours later, he wouldn't be able to handle it anymore. He knew that he couldn't go on like this. Looking down on Luo Susu, he discovered that she had fainted once again. However, from her dry lips, he could tell she hadn't drunk water for a long time. Yi Emo felt guilty. She gave him water. Yet she was thirsty to such an extent. But at the moment, he didn't have water to give her. Yi Emo really wanted to cut open his wrist and give her some of his blood, but he knew that even if he wanted to, the current situation would prevent him to do so. He was already in a life or death situation, and if he was to be injured, he would be giving himself to these bugs for dinner. Yi Emo couldn't continue like this. Suddenly, Hei turned around and stopped. However, these bugs didn't have any intention of stopping. Seeing Yi Emo stop, they swarmed him faster. Yi Emo raised his hand, and a few fireballs flew out, exploding amongst the bugs and killing a big patch of them. Yi Emo rejoiced. He didn't think that the bugs in the desert would be afraid of fire. The outer layer of their skin seemed to have been covered in a layer of oil. They had no resistance against the fireball. Yi Emo's fireball was of the lowest grade, so he didn't expect it to be effective. Now that he found a way, Yi Emo was merciless. He continued to throw out fireballs after balls. These fireballs exploded again and again, and countless bugs were burned to death. The burnt bugs emitted a disgusting scent, making people want to vomit. However, these bugs didn't have any wisdom, and they still continued to swarm him. Yi Emo estimated that his fireballs just then killed more than half of the evolved bugs. He wanted to kill some more, but the countless unevolved bugs followed up, and he could only continue to escape. Since his chi wouldn't be able to keep up, remaining still and releasing more fireballs wasn't a viable option. If he didn't reach the peak of the second level, he really wouldn't dare to do this. However, after Yi Emo's ravaging, only 2,000 bugs that could keep up remained. Yi Emo ran for a while and stopped releasing another few fireballs. When the bugs behind kept up, he started to run again. Using this tactic, Yi Emo finally escaped from the horrifying bugs by dusk, but he was almost dehydrated. He opened his parched throat and continued to run for another 2 hours, afraid that these bugs would suddenly catch up. He was terrified of these disgusting creatures. When the sky was completely dark, Yi Emo found a corroded wall. Without anything in hand, all he could do was to sit by the wall while carrying the unconscious Luo Susu. Yi Emo knew that the reason why she was still unconscious was because of thirst. However, he didn't have water. After resting for another hour, Yi Emo felt Luo Susu was really dehydrated. Although she seemed to be strong, but she could very possibly die of dehydration. As such, after thinking it through, Yi Emo cut open his wrist and pointed it at her mouth. Luo Susu drank a few mouthfuls and actually frowned. She didn't drink anymore, and Yi Emo didn't force her. After all, he still needed to find a water source. Since Luo Susu was unconscious, he needed to conserve stamina. Otherwise, they could only wait for their death. Yi Emo took the bullet out from Luo Susu's shoulder and fed her another pill. He used his chi to help her soothe her wounds and felt really fatigued. Thus, he slept against the wall with Luo Susu in his arms. When the next day came, the sun shone brightly again. Yi Emo felt he was fortunate that the Huyang tree root shadow didn't come. Otherwise, he would really be in danger. Yi Emo had come to the desert for more than 10 days, and the weather was getting hotter. Yi Emo knew that if he couldn't find a water source, let alone saving Luo Susu, even him wouldn't be able to get out of the desert. Soon, Luo Susu had woken up. She felt she was much better than yesterday, and she curiously looked at Yi Emo. She wanted to get up and walk herself, but discovered that although she was better, she still couldn't move. Yi Emo took out a biscuit and gave it to Luo Susu. Eat something first. Later on, we'll try to look for a water source or a way out. Luo Susu shook her head. At the moment, she didn't want to eat anything at all. She just glanced at her shoulder and realized that the bullet seemed to have been taken out. Seeing Luo Susu look at her shoulder, Yi Mo was afraid that she would imagine things, so he quickly explained, "I've already taken out the bullet in your shoulder. Sorry, it's my fault. Those people were hunting me." Hearing that Yi Mo took out the bullet, Luo Susu's pale face unexpectedly showed some ruddiness but disappeared quickly. She didn't continue talking and instead closed her eyes once again. Under the scorching sun, the temperature in the desert was over 50 degrees. Yi Mo didn't want to talk. Even he couldn't handle it now. He survived another day, but he was yet to find any water source. He was getting more and more withered. At night, Yi Mo found a cave. Knowing that Luo Susu couldn't hold out much longer, he carried her inside it. Chapter 110. Bitter Well. Chapter 110. Bitter Well in the wind-corroded caves. Yi Mo looked at Luo Susu, who was getting worse by the minute. He was very worried, but he has withered himself. If he gave Luo Susu some more blood, perhaps he really wouldn't be able to hold on. Yi Mo hated why he was just missing that little bit of spirit chi to break through. If he was on the 3rd level now, there would be no problems at all. His mind wandered as he seemed to see that yellow-dressed girl give more than half of her water to him. After a long time, the figure of the yellow-dressed girl appeared to merge with his master Luo Ying. He could no longer tell if she was Luo Ying or Luo Susu. Suddenly, Yi Mo woke up once again. He knew he couldn't hold on any longer, but in his mind, he couldn't bear to watch the woman he brought agony die in front of his eyes. Thinking of this, Yi Mo perseveringly slit open his wrists without hesitation and pointed it at Luo Susu's mouth. Yi Mo's wounds healed very fast, but Yi Mo had made up his mind. As soon as his injuries healed, he would slice it open again. He had this deep feeling in his heart that Luo Ying was Luo Susu. Otherwise, why would he fall for her so hard? He didn't know how many times he cut himself, but Yi Mo felt a sudden sense of fatigue. He was aware that he was about to die. He didn't think that he still didn't walk out of this desert eventually. However, more intriguingly was that he died with a girl with surname Luo. Luo Susu, Luo Ying. Yi Mo had a smile at the corner of his mouth. He thought that he didn't belong here anyways. Since he was going and could die with the woman he fell for, he was satisfied. The moment he went unconscious, he didn't think about anything. It was just the figure of Luo Ying and Luo Susu in front of his eyes. One moment, it would be Luo Ying. Another moment, it would be Luo Susu. Then, they merged. He didn't want to think. Regardless of whether it was Luo Ying or Luo Susu, he felt he was satisfied as long as he had one by his side. It was unknown how much time had passed, but when Luo Susu woke up, the moon was high in the sky. The whole cave was shone brightly by the moonlight. Suddenly, she realized that her face cover had been unveiled. Her heart skipped. But soon, she found that Yi Mo's wrist was still at her mouth. The wound had formed a scab. She carefully removed Yi Mo's hand to discover that Yi Mo had slept on the sand. He was unconscious. He had his other hand around her waist, but still kept a smile on his mouth. Luo Susu eventually understood that she was saved by Yi Mo. If it wasn't for Yi Mo's blood, she would have been long dead. Yi Mo risked his life, bringing her out of the sea of bugs, and then used his own blood to save her. But why would Yi Mo save someone he just met? Was it just because she gave a bag of water to him? Other than Lan Yu saving her life, for the first time, Luo Susu felt that she owed the young man in front of her. Although she might not live, but she still felt she owed him, even if she died immediately. Luo Susu had never been so close to a man before, much less being carried by one for 2 whole days and 1 night. The man below her had a pale face, but he was still smiling. She wondered what he was thinking about. Luo Susu extended her shaking hand and felt Yi Mo's face. Though there was some sand on it, his features were easily distinguished. There wasn't a bit of fat. The moment she touched his face, he suddenly gave her a sense of familiarity, but that feeling felt to be on the brink of existence and non-existence. Something that she just couldn't grasp. Did he die? Luo Susu suddenly felt melancholic. Although she hadn't found Ning Qingxue, she still repaid the debt she owed to Lan Yu, as she was going to lose her life in the desert. However, how could she pay back the debt she owed to a man who had already died? He used his own blood to save her. Although she was still going to die, she would die after him. Luo Susu couldn't understand why Yi-Mo would save her. She even imagined that when the bugs caught up, Yi-Mo would dump her instead of dumping his bag. If he didn't save Luo Susu, maybe he would still be alive. However, he dumped his bag instead of dumping her. Her heart, that never felt a ripple, suddenly ruptured for a stranger. Her memory was simple. From the age of 5, she was taken away to study some secret arts. 12 years later, she returned to thank Sister Lan Yu once. The place she was at was the hidden doors. What she learned were the ancient Chinese martial arts. Those from the hidden doors were not allowed in the mortal world. In addition, the place she was at, the peace door, had to stay away from the ruckus of the human world. Thus, only she knew the hardship of her coming to help Lan Yu. Other than repaying her debt to Lan Yu, nothing else tying her to the mortal world. Thus, her memories before 5 years of living were city memories. Eventually, after that, it was hidden door memories, simple and innocent. Although she had a young heart, she would never have any emotional ripples. In her eyes, other than training, there was nothing else. But today, a strange man died for her, and for the first time, she felt moved. Not for anything else, just for his actions. The people from the hidden doors were cold and only focused on cultivation. No one would risk their lives to save another. But right now, Luo Susu met someone who was willing to give up his life to save her. Perhaps when he dropped that bag, he was already preparing for the worst. Why did he do that? Luo Susu felt that she almost couldn't control her emotions. She couldn't bear Yi-Mo's death. Her eyes were cloudy. She knew this wasn't good for her, but she couldn't hold it. Susu, our way of cultivation is one that requires a serene heart. You must remember not to let anything affect your emotions. Refrain from joy, worry, anger, pain. You must not get too emotional. Her master's words seemed to be echoing by her ear. However, Luo Susu just couldn't control her sorrow. She didn't know how her master controlled herself, but she couldn't even control herself over the death of a stranger. How could this be, even if she owed him a life and she was about to die? Why was she so sad? Suddenly, her heart ached as though all her power was about to leave her. Luo Susu spewed out blood. Looking at the thick red stain on the ground, Luo Susu's eyes were filled with dim sorrow. Was this the side effects of her cultivation method? She looked down again at Yi-Mo, who had his eyes tightly closed. She still couldn't resist her tears as it fell onto his face and rolled into his mouth. Luo Susu suddenly thought if all her tears fell into his mouth, would he come back alive? Yi-Mo, in a boundless darkness, suddenly saw a clear well. He felt he was very thirsty, and he jumped into the well. He drank all the water, but there was very little, and it was bitter. He opened his mouth and waited for more of the bitter water. Luo Susu's hand suddenly felt Yi-Mo's heartbeat. Although it was very faint, but it was still there. He wasn't dead. Luo Susu suddenly rejoiced. If only she had more water. Luo Susu didn't even think before grabbing Yi-Mo's sword and slitting her wrist too. Blood immediately gushed out, and she quickly pointed it to Yi-Mo's mouth. She wanted Yi-Mo to drink, but her blood was too viscous. Yi-Mo couldn't drink it. In desperation, Luo Susu shed tears again. She sucked from her own wrist and fed it to Yi-Mo's mouth. But with just that, she could no longer hold out and fell unconscious as well. Her blood was too thick, and in just a moment, it coagulated. Yemo felt that bitter well water suddenly become viscous. His mouth seemed to feel a softness. He subconsciously gulped, and his dantian felt some heat. Yemo was a bit conscious. He seemed to have noticed something and started to cultivate. He was getting more and more aware, and was even sure that he was at the edge of a breakthrough. He wouldn't let this opportunity pass. Yemo's chi continued to go through cycles of cultivation. 1 cycle, 2 cycles. That membrane which stopped Yemo from reaching the 3rd level was getting thinner and thinner, charging and charging again as well. Yemo didn't have anything else in mind. He just wanted to break through that membrane. Luo Susu felt a warmth as well as something that seemed to calm her spirit. She opened her eyes, enjoying that sense. She felt that even if she died like this, she would be very peaceful. She was very grateful towards the young man who brought her away from the bugs, allowing her to choose such a peaceful way of death. But soon she understood that Yemo's body emitted this sense. Yemo still didn't open his eyes. His face was still pale, but it had more blood than before. Luo Susu rejoiced. She knew she couldn't endure much longer, but if she could save this person, then she would have no regrets. She would have paid back everything, and would be able to leave this world without any regrets. Then she had this sense that made her feel close to this man. She couldn't tell why she would feel such way. She slid open her wrist once again and sucked, passing the blood to Yemo's mouth. Yemo was at the critical moment of breaking through to 3rd level. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. But soon he understood what woke him up. That viscous liquid in his dreams was Luo Susu's blood. That softness was her lips. He felt moved, but just didn't know what that bitter water was. Other than his master Luo-ing, this was the first time Yemo was moved by a woman. He didn't like to shed tears and never did, but now his eyes felt sore. Yemo wanted to stop Luo Susu's suicide, but he couldn't at this moment. He needed to focus all his effort on breaking through. Only then could he save both of them. Luo Susu suddenly raised her hand and wiped the tear from Yemo's eye as she mumbled, "Sister, you said today is my birthday. I didn't think I would have my last birthday here." Then she fell on Yemo and fainted. Like Yemo, she fainted with a smile on her face. Regardless of whether she could save Yemo, she did all she could. She didn't know anyone and could leave without any regrets. Chapter 111. 3rd Level Chi Gathering. Chapter 111. 3rd Level Chi Gathering at this moment. The chi in Yemo's body had reached its max. Finally, he felt a rumble in multiple points of his chakra meridian. Immediately, he seemed lighter while feeling countless new chi forming in his dantian. Everything became clearer. His spirit sense nearly reached a range of 50 meters. Was this the 3rd stage of chi gathering? He held down the join in his heart as he suddenly wanted to howl. Countless hopes, and he finally reached 3rd stage chi gathering. Suddenly, Yemo remembered Luo Susu, who was still unconscious in his arms. He thought about the hand she felt his face with, and was struck with another fit of worry. He knew Luo Susu was on the brink of death. Yemo immediately used a water ball magic, and a water ball filled with spirit chi formed in his hand. Yemo put the water into an empty bottle and fed it to Luo Susu's mouth. However, Luo Susu couldn't drink the water in Yemo's hand. Her face was pale and had a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her flawless face was like the goddess from heaven, making Yemo's heart ache. Yemo used another water ball to wash her face, he thought, and started using his chi to help her recover her dried-up life essence. Yemo only forcibly reached 3rd stage in such a bad environment. He didn't even consolidate his power. If he was to help recover Luo Susu, it would be very hard, and with one mistake he would break all his meridians. However, Yemo didn't care at all. Even if he was going to be useless, he would still save this woman. And there was something Yi Mo didn't dare to think about. In his heart, there was more than one that this girl and the figure of his master merged together. Yi Mo's spirit chi flowed incessantly into Luo Susu's body, helping her repair her meridians. If a cultivator were to see what Yi Mo was doing, he would think Yi Mo is crazy. A mere stage 3 chi gathering dared to do something like this. This was suicidal. Even a stage 6 wouldn't dare to use his own chi to repair meridians for others, yet Yi Mo did it when he was a mere stage 3. Yi Mo was indeed very tired now. He felt he was running out of spirit chi, and once again felt the danger of lack of water. However, he knew he couldn't stop and wouldn't stop. Since he did it, he must save Luo Susu. Otherwise, his heart wouldn't be at rest for his entire life. Luo Susu had a long dream. She saw herself fall into a big fire pit as countless fire rushed towards her, consuming her. She felt she wanted to get out, but the fire prevented her. At this moment, a man helped her block the fire and take A to a cool forest. She really enjoyed the forest and didn't feel distressed at all. The annoying things in her body was soothed by the serenity of this place. Other than feeling a little thirsty, she really liked this place. "I'm thirsty," Luo Susu said subconsciously. However, that man who helped her block the fire didn't turn around. She felt his body was shaking. "What's wrong with you?" "I'm a bit thirsty," Luo Susu said. Once again, she believed that must be a lake in front. She only needed to scoop some water, and she would be able to drink. However, she couldn't move. Finally, the man turned around. His face was pale and covered in sweat. He smiled at her. "Go drink." Then, the man fell over. Luo Susu worried and hurried to hold up the man who saved her and blocked the fire. However, she stumbled, and the man had disappeared. She also opened her eyes and felt she was still in Yi Mo's arms. However, other than feeling a little thirsty, she didn't feel any discomfort. She even felt comfortable, just like in her dreams. What happened? Why wasn't he awake? What happened to herself? She knew her situation. How did she suddenly get better? Luo Susu suddenly felt that there was something beside her hand. It was a full bottle of water. She exclaimed and wondered where this water came from. Why would it suddenly appear here? She couldn't explain it, but didn't want to think. She opened the bottle and pointed the water at Yi Mo's mouth. At the same time, she wiped sweat from Yi Mo's forehead. Was it he who blocked the fire in her dreams? Yi Mo finally felt water. He drank a few mouthfuls and opened his eyes. He looked at Luo Susu, who fed him water, and smiled happily. He finally succeeded, although he used up all his spirit chi and was in a rather dangerous situation. He didn't fail eventually. He successfully saved Luo Susu, and her cultivation would be faster. Too bad. She didn't cultivate. If only she could cultivate with him. "You're awake." Luo Susu looked with joy at Yi Mo, who had just opened his eyes. For the first time, she felt that there was joy in this world. "MHM, drink some water too. I don't need it. I just need to rest for a bit." Then Yi Mo closed his eyes and recovered his spirit chi. Luckily, he was just extremely fatigued and didn't injure his foundation. Luck amongst luck. Perhaps this was good fortune for those who do good deeds. Seeing Yi Missouri close his eyes, Luo Susu knew there was no major problems with him, and so she took the bottle and drank a few mouthfuls. It was cool and a faint sweet taste. Water was very tasty. She had never drunk water that was this good before. After drinking, she suddenly realized that Yi Mo had drunk from this before. But then she shook her head. She had already kissed him. So what? However, Luo Susu didn't drink much. Although she was very thirsty and wanted to drink more, she still had to leave some for Yi Mo. And she still wanted to ask Yi Mo where this water came from. Yemo closed his eyes and started recovering his chi. Luo Susu looked at him, but didn't disturb him. She also saw there was a bag of biscuits on the side. She gave that to Yemo and didn't expect him to still have it now. In order to recover her strength, she took one and ate it while waiting for Yemo to wake up. Although it had been more than an hour, and Yemo still didn't wake up, Luo Susu didn't seem worried at all because she could tell from Yemo's breathing, which gradually calmed down. Although she didn't know what chi art Yemo was cultivating, she could tell it wouldn't be worse than the one she used. When Yemo woke up, the sky was already bright, and a night passed just like that. He looked at Luo Susu, who had gotten out of his arms, and sat on the side, feeling very happy that she was really well. Other than some weakness, her body had completely recovered. What made Yemo surprised and joyful at the same time was that Luo Susu didn't wear her face cover anymore. Instead, she took a bottle of water and looked at him quietly. Yemo saw Luo Susu's out-of-this-world complexion and was actually stunned. However, Luo Susu passed the water in her hand to Yemo. "You drink some too. Thanks for saving me yesterday." Although she didn't know how Yemo saved her, she knew that she wouldn't be alive if Yemo didn't save her. Yemo suddenly smiled and said, "Drink the water first, then we'll celebrate your birthday. However, I don't have a birthday present for you. Tell me, what present do you want the most now?" Luo Susu stopped for a moment, but she immediately realized that Yemo must have heard her talk to herself to know that today was her birthday. She looked at Yemo's genuine smile and seemed to be influenced by it. She also became joyful. For the first time, she said cheekily, "If the heavens could give me a small pond, even if it was just the size of a ball, it would be my happiest moment now." Then she subconsciously looked at her body that was full of blood and dirt. She really did hope there was water, so she could clean herself. Yemo smiled and said, "Wait here for me, I'll be back soon." Then he turned and went into the cave. Luo Susu looked at Yemo's back and actually felt a faint reluctance for him to leave. But soon she removed this emotion from her head. Her way of cultivation forebode having such distractions. If she did have other thoughts, she may even do damage to herself, much less cultivate this art. So those who cultivate the serene heat art will never feel emotional towards other things. This was also why it was very hard for her to come out, because as soon as she was tied by the things in the mortal realm, it would be hard for her to progress in cultivation. Luo Susu sighed. She was lost in thought. She had Yemo's blood in her body, and Yemo also had her blood. She was saved by Yemo, and Yemo was saved by her. Was there really no ties between them? But no matter what, she decided to never come out again after she went back. Perhaps she really shouldn't have come out this time. When she went back, she would tell Sister Lanyu that it would be very hard for her to come out again. Then she thought about Yemo. This young man gave her such a deep-etched feeling. He seemed to have this metaphysical yet serene feeling on him. She really enjoyed staying with him, and ever since she woke up, that feeling was growing more intense. He even gave her a faint sense of familiarity. That familiarity definitely wasn't because she saved him before and stayed with him in hardship. It was a real familiarity, and that made her feel very bewildered. Perhaps she knew him from their past life, Luo Susu thought. She would never show any feelings towards any man and wouldn't even talk to them. But the thing she did for Yemo was way past her bottom line. She didn't even to look back on that. And he was mysterious. He could actually revive her and get a bottle of water. It was as though he would always have a way to do things when staying with him. Chapter 112. Birthday Present. Chapter 112. Birthday present, of course, Yemo didn't go to a very far place. He just dug a ditch a foot deep with an area of half a square meter on the hard rock inside the cave. Then he continued to use his chi to convert spirit chi to clear water. Other than those that were sucked away by the rock, he used a whole half an hour to fill this ditch up. When Yi-Mo returned to the cave, Luo Susu had already stood at the entrance of the cave looking around, as if a normal woman looking for her husband's return. She wanted Yi-Mo to come back earlier. Without Yi-Mo, she felt emptiness and loneliness. She had never felt this before. Even when she was in the desert by herself for many days, she didn't feel like this, but today, Yi-Mo only left for half an hour and she was having this feeling. "You're back." Seeing Yi-Mo, Luo Susu felt joy from the bottom of her heart, but when the words came to her mouth, she could only say these few bland words. "Uh-huh." Yi-Mo nodded and smiled. Luo Susu felt Yi-Mo's smile was very authentic and looked very nice, so she couldn't help but to smile too. Yi-Mo had never seen Luo Susu smile. He only knew that she was extraordinarily beautiful without smiling, but now that she did, she was like the goddess from the heavens descending upon the earth. Yi-Mo was lost in that smile and couldn't help to think of a poem. Looking back and charming the world with a smile, all the women in the royal palace looked colorless in comparison. Perhaps this poem wasn't suitable because Luo Susu's smile didn't have the seductive sense of charm, but it made Yi-Mo lose his spirit. Her smile was purely natural without a speck of dust. It was like a clear well or like a fresh spring breeze. Luo Susu blushed being looked at Yi-Mo like that. Just when she wanted to say something, Yi-Mo seemed to remember what he wanted to say. "Susu, come with me." "Susu?" Luo Susu didn't object with what Yi-Mo called her. She even wanted to ask where Yi-Mo called her master the first time he saw her, but she eventually didn't ask. She didn't have too much curiosity. Yi-Mo suddenly held Luo Susu's hand and ran towards the clear well he dug up. Luo Susu was shocked and was about to pull out her hand, but before she could, Yi-Mo had already released it and pointed at that clear well and said, "Happy birthday. This is the birthday gift the heavens told me to give you. Do you like it?" Luo Susu stared dumbfoundedly at the pool of water in front of her. She couldn't suppress the joy and excitement in her heart for a long time. Was this really the birthday present the gods gave her? Otherwise, how could there be a pool of clear water in such a blazing sun? And the stone was very hard. It couldn't be man-made. "Thank you." Luo Susu suddenly turned around and looked at Yi-Mo. She couldn't say any more. She once again felt the urge to shed tears. She even felt her power regressing, but she couldn't hold the joy in her heart. It wasn't purely because of this pool of water. It was when she wanted this pool of water the most, the water appeared right in front of her eyes. The thing that was impossible to attain appeared right in front of her. "Susu, our serene door, must stay away from joy, concern, anger, sadness." But today she felt sad, felt happy, cried, and even fed a man with her mouth. Only today she felt these emotions, and she felt she was a normal person. She didn't want to think about those roles and didn't want those chain. Perhaps even if she wanted them, it would be when she got back to the serene door. She didn't dare to ask where this water came from. She was afraid that if she asked, she would wake up from this dream and this water would disappear forever. This was her first birthday present and her favorite one. Unfortunately, she couldn't take it away with her. Luo Susu walked beside the pond and scooped up water, drinking it. It had the same taste as before. There was a faint sweetness and a clean, refreshing smell. Luo Susu wanted to wash herself. She turned around, but found that Yi-Mo had already left. She felt gratitude towards him once again and said in a soft voice, "Thank you, Yi-Mo. Thank you for your birthday present." She didn't think about how Yi-Mo got this pond of water and didn't think why it would be here. She was already satisfied and didn't want to doubt something she got so hard. Yi-Mo stood by himself at the entrance of the cave waiting for Luo Susu. He suddenly thought if Luo Susu would be his master, but then he immediately shook his head. Luo Susu obviously didn't have the same situation as him. She was herself the same as her 20 years ago. But even knowing that she wasn't his master Luo Ying, Yi Mo still couldn't face her with a calm heart. And Yi Mo kept this thought at the bottom of his heart that what if she was Luo Ying? Seeing Luo Susu wash up and come back, Yi Mo's eyes brightened up. He couldn't help but to be in complete awe for her. She didn't change clothes, didn't have any makeup, but one couldn't tell she had been in the desert for many days. He really didn't know how she did that with just water. She still didn't wear a face cover, but held a bottle of water in her hand. Yi Mo didn't take the water from Luo Susu's hand, but instead passed a few biscuits to her and said, "This is what you gave me. You should eat a few too. I'm going out. What about you?" Luo Susu took the biscuit and nodded. We'll go out together." Perhaps she didn't continue talking and paused for a bit before saying, "Did those men with guns come for you? Do you need me to help you?" Yi Mo shook his head and smiled. "I won't need your help for those people. Let's go." Luo Susu didn't ask a second time. Since Yi Mo didn't need her help, it meant he had his ways. On the way, Yi Mo didn't ask Luo Susu what she was doing here, and neither did Luo Susu. It was as though they just met. The return journey was very fast with Luo Susu's guidance. By nighttime, they had already arrived by a road. Although this was still inside the desert, they only needed to follow the road, and they would be able to leave the desert. The Nanqing people seemed to have disappeared. Yi Mo and Luo Susu had reached a public road, and there was not even one from Nanqing. However, they did meet another group that was going into the desert for adventure. It was already dusk time when Yi Mo met them. The group saw it was just the two of them, and that they just came out of the desert without any equipment. The group provided a tent and some food and water for them. Luckily, it was dusk and Luo Susu's complexion didn't show. Otherwise, it would cause a rupture. With these things, Luo Susu and Yi Mo didn't seem to be in a hurry anymore, although they didn't talk much on the way. Sometimes they didn't even talk for a whole day. They liked this feeling of serenity. And what made Luo Susu even more grateful was that Yi Mo had never entered the tent. He was always outside. Even when she told him to come in and rest, he wouldn't come in, or he came in for a while and left. Even the time Luo Susu slept, her heart was very peaceful because she knew Yi Mo was just outside the tent. Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing searched the desert for many days with the help of their group, but still didn't have any news of Yi Mo. Their supplies were almost used up, and the weather was getting hotter. Although Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing wasn't too keen, they could only follow the group out. The next time they could look, it would be near May to June. That wasn't a time when one can just come and leave the desert. Qingxue, look, there are people sleeping outside at the border of the desert. This is so romantic. The closest hotel is only 6 kilometers away. Although Qi Wanqing also wanted to find Yi Mo as soon as possible, Ning Qingxue seemed glum, so she tried to find some conversation to cheer her up. Ning Qingxue looked at the tent in the desert, but she was immediately stunned. The person at the door of the tent was Yi Mo. She suddenly felt her nose to be sour. She had looked arduously for half a month, but saw Yi Mo just when she left the desert. Was the heavens taking pity on her? Qingxue, what's wrong? Qi Wanqing saw Ning Qingxue's tears and looked over at the tent. It really was Yi Mo, and he was standing right outside. It's Brother Yi. Qi Wanqing suddenly felt as though she was going to suffocate. She was stunned and finally remembered to tell the driver to stop after a long time. Just when Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue charged off the car, they immediately stopped their steps. This was because a woman came out of the tent. She was actually living in the same tent with Yi Mo. I'm going. Luo Susu's words were very simple, as though countless words weren't as meaningful as these few. I know. Yi Mo seemed bitter. He didn't know how to describe his current feeling. Silence. It was a suffocating silence. After a long time, Yemo said once again, "Can I go look for you?" Luo Susu didn't speak and suddenly took out a silk cloth and gave it to Yemo. "Help me wear it." Yemo helped Luo Susu put it on, and Luo Susu suddenly took the bottle of water Yemo gave to her. "I'll take this. Don't look for me. You won't find me. If you find me, it would do harm to us both. I won't say goodbye. Thank you for giving me the happiest birthday." Yemo fell silent. She thanked him not for saving her, but for giving her a birthday present. Chapter 113. People always meet at departure. Chapter 113. People always meet at departure. Looking at Yemo help Luo Susu put on the face cover. Ning Qingxue suddenly stopped in her steps. Yemo didn't notice her at all. Instead, he focused on helping the woman wear the face cover. It was as though there was only the woman standing in front of him in this entire world. The bitterness in Qi Wanqing's heart was as vicious as Ning Qingxue. She also stopped her steps towards Yemo as she looked at Yemo and that girl not knowing what to do. She didn't know their relationship, but they seemed so intimate. However, Qi Wanqing thought for a while but still walked over. Seeing Qi Wanqing walk towards Yemo, Ning Qingxue also collected herself. She suddenly thought, why would she be like that? Yemo married her to help her. Why would she feel uncomfortable? If Yemo had someone he liked, she should be happy. She didn't want to marry Yemo because she loved him. Instead, it was because she was grateful towards him. Was it really like that, though? She didn't dare to ask herself, and she didn't have the answer either. At least, she knew she wasn't able to become happy now. Ning Qingxue? Qi Wanqing? How are you guys here? Yemo finally saw the two who came up. Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing could both only say one word. How should they talk? Were they going to say they came to the desert to look for Yemo because they missed them? However, Yemo was no longer the same. Yemo. His EQ was no longer infinitely low. He could see what they meant. He could tell they came to the desert because of him. Qi Wanqing knew he was coming to the desert, but how did Ning Qingxue know? How did they know each other? You are Qingxue? Luo Susu suddenly asked. Her tone was very plain. Yes, and you are? Ning Qingxue looked at this woman in surprise. Although she wore a cover, that beauty and figure even made Ning Qingxue feel insecure. She could imagine how stunningly beautiful this girl was once she took off her face cover. Qi Wanqing was also obviously attracted by Luo Susu. Even girls had a good impression of her, naturally much less men. Thinking about this, she looked at Yemo and sighed. Excellent people would always be found by others. She could find Yemo, but so could other people. I'm Luo Susu. Luo Susu's eyes flashed a look of relaxation as she said plainly, You are my aunt. Ning Qingxue finally understood that this woman was her aunt. The woman who lived in the same tent with her official husband was her aunt. Her eyes disclosed a sliver of disappointment. Meanwhile, her heart was in a mess. Although this aunt wasn't related to her, but it was still her aunt. She didn't think she would love the same man as her aunt. Ning Qingxue suddenly stopped thinking. Did she like Yemo? Although she didn't want to admit this, but she had to eventually admit that her care for Yemo had exceeded more than just guilt and gratitude. Yemo and Qi Wanqing both didn't expect that Luo Susu was Ning Qingxue's aunt. The atmosphere became awkward. Luo Susu didn't like talking, so after seeing Ning Qingxue was fine, she blandly said, Qingxue, your mother is very worried about you. You should call home and tell them you're out of the desert. Ning Qingxue lowered her head and said, I got it, Aunt. Ye brother, did you finish your things? Qi Wanqing saw things were awkward, so she asked. Yemo nodded. It's done. I'm preparing to leave. Okay, then let's go together on the car. Qi Wanqing smiled and said. Luo Susu shook her head. No need, Qingxue. Tell your mother then after I go back. Luo Susu paused, and eventually didn't say that she wasn't coming out again. Before Ning Qingxue could reply, Luo Susu looked at Yi Mo and said again, I'm going. There was just those simple words without any other expressions. She knew that after this farewell, they would perhaps never see each other again. Although she felt some reluctance to leave, Luo Susu simply thought how Yi Mo saved her and gave her the happiest birthday present, which created this certain feeling. As long as she went back and cultivated, she could find her mental state once again and not be troubled by these things. As time progressed, she would perhaps forget about it. Yi Mo looked at Luo Susu's gradually disappearing figure and felt a faint sense of sadness. He really wanted to go up and say, don't go, and just cultivate with me, but he couldn't find any reason to. Although Luo Susu looked very docile and silent, she had her own opinion on things. Finally, Luo Susu's figure disappeared. Yi brother, she had left. Qi Wanqing saw Yi Mo was still staring at the path Luo Susu left, so she could only remind him. Oh, she already left? Yi Mo suddenly woke up and saw Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue staring at him. He could only awkwardly say, I was lost in thought just then. Ning Qingxue lowered her head, as if not wanting to talk, while Qi Wanqing sighed. Seeing their expression, Yi Mo coughed and asked, How are you two together? Qi Wanqing quickly adjusted herself and told about how she and Ning Qingxue went to Flowing Snake to look for him. Yi Mo looked at Ning Qingxue in surprise. He didn't expect her to go look for him at Flowing Snake. That wasn't a place a girl should go. It seemed that Fong Nan was a good person. He remembered that night when he treated Ning Qingxue and heard that she was well prepared and couldn't help but to feel guilty. Thinking about this, Yi Mo could only say, actually, some things aren't what you think they are. Don't go to a place like Flowing Snake again. If something happened, Yi Mo didn't know how to explain it to her. Sorry, Yi Mo, I just wanted to find you and apologize. I know many things weren't as I thought they were, and Ning Qingxue didn't know where to start and began to cry. She suddenly felt she was really weak and couldn't help herself when she saw Yi Mo. The thing Yi Mo was scared of the most was women crying, like Ning Qingxue right now. He didn't know what to do and could only stand there awkwardly. If he didn't hear her last words that night, he would be better, but after hearing that, his opinion of her greatly changed. Plus, Ning Qingxue risked her life to protect that silver heart grass. No matter what reason, he was grateful to her from the bottom of his heart. Seeing the atmosphere solidify once again, Qi Wanqing said, Yi brother, why don't we get on the car and talk as we go? Ning Qingxue also looked at Yi Mo hopefully. She really wanted to go back to that house again, but she knew the chances were too slim. Yi Mo shook his head and said, I won't come with you guys. I still have other things to do. We'll separate here. We'll see each other again if fate brings us together. After knowing Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue's intentions, Yi Mo didn't want to stay here with them anymore. Originally, he didn't have any feelings for the two. Now that there was a Luo Susu, he had less space in his heart. You're going now? Ning Qingxue suddenly felt her tone was shaky. She just suddenly thought of a sentence, I'm finally losing him again. Suddenly, she thought about when did she ever had him? Yes, I'm going. Yi Mo seemed to feel that his tone was the same as when Luo Susu left and felt to be too simple. So he continued, you two should go back earlier. It's too dangerous in the desert. Sometimes there are even things that can't be stopped by human force. He thought of the human-eating bugs. If they came, even a train would be devoured, much less cars. I know. I'll go back immediately, although Ning Qingxue was very disappointed that Yi Mo didn't leave with them and saw him being very intimate with her aunt. She calmed down now. Perhaps what was hers will always be hers, but what wasn't hers wasn't something she could get by force. Although she felt bitter, but she had some unforgettable memories. After all, She lived with him for more than 20 days. Seeing his gradually departing figure, Ning Qingxue suddenly thought of what would have happened if she didn't break the marriage pact. Would he still leave like this? Thinking about this, Ning Qingxue shook her head. She was the one who left, but she didn't expect she would catch feelings for him while using him as a shield. Why didn't she care before? Perhaps sometimes what people say are incredulous. Ye brother, if you have time, remember to go to Luo Tsang, my cousin's company. Qi Wanqing hurried to say, seeing that Yi Mo was getting far away. She was much better than Ning Qingxue. Although she also had those intentions for Yi Mo never promised her anything, and the moment she saw Luo Susu, she believed that only someone like her could be a match for Brother Yi. I know. Yi Mo's voice traveled from the distance, and soon he increased his speed and disappeared. Yi Mo's voice still echoed beside their ears, but he was long gone. Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing stood there for a long time before Qi Wanqing said, "Qingxue, he already left, we should leave too." Then the two no longer had the interest to talk anymore. In the morning, the sun just crawled up shining on Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing, dragging out a long shadow on the sand. Although there were two, they both seemed exceptionally lonely. Chapter 114, Nanqing Lang Ji. Chapter 114, Nanqing Lang Ji. The reason Yi Mo didn't go with Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing was because it was time for him to get revenge from Nanqing. They hunted him and even almost killed Luo Susu. If he didn't teach Qian Tu a lesson, then he wouldn't be called Yi Mo, and there was no need for him to cultivate. He was already at third stage Qi gathering now. Not only was his fireball art stronger, he could also use other magic, such as invisibility, wind blade, wind surfing, and so on. He had once reached foundation establishment, so he didn't even need to practice these magic. He only needed to have the power, and he would be able to release it. He knew that Qian Tu was watching him near the desert. Perhaps as soon as he showed up, there would be people to take him to Qian Tu very soon. Yi Mo didn't think wrong. As soon as he left the desert, he didn't even enter the hotel. He was watched once again. However, Yi Mo wasn't the same Yi Mo half a month ago. He was worrying Qian Tu wasn't going to come and find him, but now that there were people watching him, he gladly welcomed them. Yi Mo entered a hotel, took a hot shower, and got something to eat before sleeping. It had been a long time, so he estimated that Nanqing had already gathered the people they needed. As expected, just when Yi Mo was prepared to go out and buy some clothes for changing, he was once again stopped. The 5 men looked at Yi Mo as though he was a dead man. Yi Mo knew they had no concerns. Even if they opened fire in the public, Nanqing could probably deal with it. If you know what's good, then come with us. Otherwise, don't blame us if we shoot here. The man at the front had long hair. When this man spoke, he didn't have any expression on his face. It was as though he didn't speak those words. Yi Mo knew they were sure. He was the one they were looking for. Yi Mo looked down at his tattered clothes. He wanted to change, but there was nowhere to buy. He did have more than 1,000 on him, though. They were already prepared for Yi Mo's resistance and take him away by force, but unexpectedly, Yi Mo said slowly, "Since we're going, then hurry up and lead the way. What are you waiting here for? Did Qian Tu die?" The man wanted to attack as soon as he heard Yi Mo's words, but was stopped by the man besides him. This man also sneered at Yi Mo. "I hope you can still be so tough on the mouth not long after. Get on the car." It was a normal business car that didn't even have a brand. The 5 men looked at each other when Yi Mo got on the car without any alarm. Soon, there were 4 people who sat beside Yi Mo surrounding him. The other man quickly drove off with the car. Originally, they thought Yi Mo would definitely not just surrender like this, since he was so ferocious. As soon as Yi Mo had any resistance, they were prepared to go subjugate him at once. This was because all 5 of them were masters among masters. They weren't the rookies who went after Yi Mo in the desert. However, what made them more shocked was that Yi Mo actually just closed his eyes and started sleeping. The men looked at each other. They didn't understand if Yi Mo was asking to die, or he was just thick-headed. One of the men suddenly raised the gun in his hand, and the other 3 all nodded. Although Yi Mo had surrendered, it would be better if they could shoot him and just make sure he didn't die. However, before he raised his gun, the few men saw that the man who raised the gun had already fell into the seat. There was blood flowing out from his forehead. Between his eyebrows, there was a hole where blood poured out. The few men looked at their member who fell down in shock and couldn't speak for a long time. It was as though the hole on his head was natural. It was as though it just grew there ever since he picked up his gun. Yi Mo opened his eyes and scanned the people. If anyone else dares to touch a gun, this will happen to you. Then he closed his eyes and started meditating again. The man who was driving almost crashed the car onto the side of the road after losing concentration. Meanwhile, cold sweat trickled down the backs of the other men uncontrollably. Their foreheads started to sweat as well. What just happened? He almost didn't move with his eyes closed, yet one of their members with a gun was killed, and he was even killed with a metal nail in the head. It seemed that they were nothing different to the rookies who hunted after Yi Mo before in his eyes. He was never afraid to begin with. He was planning to look for trouble at their base. Thinking about the traceless metal nail, the man on the wheel was starting to shiver. The car fell into a deadly silence. No one dared to talk. Yi Mo's power had greatly exceeded their expectations. It wasn't something they could defend against. They could already imagine that Yi Mo only needed to move his hand, and the person he disliked would definitely die under a metal nail. After a long time, their breathing finally calmed down. Perhaps it was because the person who came this time was Lang Ji. Lang Ji's surname was originally Lang, but because he was so savage, he acquired the surname of Lang 10 years ago. In order to avenge a brother in Macau, he charged into one of the 3 biggest gangs in Macau, Sea Shark Gang, and killed more than 23 gang members, including a master, who had reached yellow level. Meanwhile, he was only lightly injured. After escaping, he met Qian Longtu, who was at a Macau casino. Qian Longtu approved of Lang Ji greatly and took him in. Now, he was one of the 3 strongest people in Nanqing and the most savage among the group. Some have speculated that Lang Ji's power had reached middle stage of yellow level. However, no one knows because those who have seen him attack were all dead. This time, Qian Longtu sent Lang Ji to the desert to blockade Yi Mo. From this, it could be seen how much he hated Yi Mo. Although Yi Mo did kill one of them easily, and they didn't even see the action of Yi Mo killing, but everyone knew of Lang Ji's power. As long as they gave Yi Mo to him, they believed that Yi Mo would be no match for Lang Ji, no matter how strong he was. Lang Ji had exceeded the range of normal masters. They have also heard that masters that have reached a level was not someone normal martial artists could hold against. As such, once they calmed down, they returned to normal. Yi Mo didn't decide to kill much people. Nanqing had this much people that even he wasn't able to kill them all. Plus, he didn't have much enmity with the other members of Nanqing. He only needed to teach Qian Longtu a lesson. Yi Mo will make Qian Longtu know that a cultivator wasn't someone to be so easily hunted. The car was getting faster and faster. The driver wanted to bring Yi Mo to Lang Ji as soon as possible. Perhaps Yi Mo was too terrifying. He killed someone with a metal nail without moving. Perhaps only masters like Lang Ji could suppress Yi Mo's fire. Yi Mo didn't worry at all. No matter how fast the car was driving, he was still meditating with his eyes closed. Even if the car drove off a cliff now, he could still escape. Although these people didn't know where Yi Mo got his confidence from, they were more confused by Yi Mo's calmness. Even if he wasn't afraid of attacks, was he not afraid of the car falling off the cliff? However, They didn't worry for long. It wasn't even an hour before the car drove into a town. The town produced a lot of jade. It was a town near the desert. However, it didn't have a long history, and the streets were empty. The car twisted and turned before eventually entering a manor. The manor was very luxurious and had 2 rows of wudong trees, which gave it a high-class feeling. Yi Mo only understood how big this place was after getting out of the car, just by seeing how there were 2 rows of buff men standing outside the place. He knew this was probably one of the biggest gathering places for Nanqing. He didn't need someone to lead, and he just walked into the house himself. Instead of a house, it might be better to say this was a meeting room. However, it just didn't have a round table. The area wasn't large and didn't even have seats. There were also people standing on the 2 sides, but there was only 12 of them. These people looked more ferocious than the people in the yard. Of course, there were no seats just for the people below. At the very top, there sat a man with a woman beside him. The man had a few scars on his face, but the worst was a knife scar on his forehead. It was like a centipede was staying there. Meanwhile, the woman was only in her 20s and played with a small knife. When Yi Mo came in, she seemed to be still paying attention to her knife and didn't notice at all that a person had come in. The knife scar man saw Yi Mo come in, but didn't say anything. He examined Yi Mo and then said, "You're very cocky. You dare to kill my men now. Do you know what the scariest thing in the world is? Young man, do you think it's death? I know you're not afraid of death, but I have 100 ways for you to crave death." Yi Mo sneered. "Congratulations, you are right. Thus, I need you to send a message to Qianlong too. Tell him to wash his neck clean." "Humph, you got balls, but I hope you still do later. You will regret it." Hearing Yi Mo's words, Lang Ji was extremely furious. Up until he entered this career, there had not been a young man who dared to be so cocky to him. But before he could stand up, Yi Mo walked up and coldly said, "Piss off. You." Even with Lang Ji wanting to see Yi Mo beg for mercy, he couldn't endure Yi Mo's arrogance. Yi Mo wanted to sit in his seat, so he didn't hesitate to raise his fists and punch towards Yi Mo. The fist broke through the air, making sounds that even people on the sides could distinctly hear. They couldn't help but to gasp at Lang Ji's power. This was a rare phenomena. First Lang is a homonym. Second Lang means wolf. Chapter 115. Intimidation. Chapter 115. Intimidation. Lang Ji was very pleased with this punch. No one had dared to take a punch directly from him because if they did, he wouldn't need to attack a second time. However, what made Lang Ji feel more satisfaction was that Yi Mo actually grabbed towards his fist. "You're asking to die." Lang Ji sneered. He already heard his men's reports and knew Yi Mo's cockiness and also knew of his power. However, this person dared to catch his fist. This was no different to suicide. This guy was indeed cocky, but he didn't want to kill Yi Mo immediately. He wanted to torture this young man. However, the truth didn't unfold as he wished. Yi Mo's hand looked very slow, but it just managed to grab his fist. And Yi Mo's hands seemed to suddenly grow bigger. There was a fit of cracking sound, and Lang Ji looked at his fists in disbelief. Forgetting the pain, he realized the sound actually came from his fists. He clearly saw that Yi Mo's palm was more than 10 centimeters away from his fist, but it was still crushed. Oh, not crushed. Rather, it was crunched into a soft flab. Arg. Bone-screeching pain passed up, and Lang Ji could no longer resist but to yell. Yi Mo raised his leg and kicked Lang Ji flying out. Meanwhile, he walked up to the chair and sat down. "Kill him." Before Lang Ji finished his words, multiple men were ready to shoot at Yi Mo. Yi Mo's movement was simple. He flung out tens of nails, and all those who prepared to charge or open fire were either shot in the forehead or in the throat. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 people left in the room dumbfounded, other than the woman and Lang Ji. 9 people were killed in a few breaths. Despite being in excruciating pain, Lang Ji was still dazed. The pain on his hands was no longer important. What was important was that the man in front was too terrifying. The strongest person he had seen was that Xian Taoist, the second in command of the Metal River Gang. But if he were to be compared with Yi Mo, he seemed a little bit off. It was said that Xian Taoist martial arts was at a very high stage. It was said that he was almost reaching black level, but even with a Taoist like that, he still felt Yi Mo was stronger. Moreover, he was also a martial artist who was about to reach middle stage of yellow level. This was only because he found a poverty-stricken ancient martial artist as a teacher when he was young. With his continued hard work, he finally attained his status today. However, he would have never expected that he wouldn't even be able to receive a single move from this young man. More importantly, Yi Mo's speed was too horrifying. It seemed that even guns were useless against him. That young girl seemed to have just discovered Yi Mo. She no longer had the spirit to play with the knife in her hands. Instead, she gazed at the ground full of corpses and then at Lang Ji. Then, without any sign, she flung her hand, and the knife had become a white ray of light that shot towards Yi Mo's neck. Her knife had killed people stronger than Lang Ji, because they wouldn't have the time to dodge. Yi Mo suddenly raised his hand, and another metal nail flung out. The metal nail clunked against the blade. The blade fell to the ground, but the metal nail didn't stop and continued shooting towards the woman's wrist. Before the woman had reacted, the metal nail passed through her wrist. After a few drops of blood, the girl's face was pale as a heart-wrenching pain passed on. She knew that this wasn't the most important, but instead that her hand was now disabled. The flying knife she was renowned for wouldn't fly anymore. You destroyed my hand? You... The girl was suddenly angry. Perhaps it would be better for her to accept death than the disabling of her hand. At least after death she wouldn't be able to think, but without her hand, she would rather die than live. Oh, I can't destroy it? Then I'll chop it off. Yi Mo raised his hand again. No one saw what he flung out, but those few who didn't die had a spooky feeling. The woman couldn't react at all, and just felt her arm cool. Then she saw a shocking event. Her hand, along with her forearm, fell on the ground. She was dazed. However, Lang Ji reacted and quickly used his healthy hand to seal the blood vessel on this girl's arm. But even so, he couldn't stop the blood from flowing out. At this moment, Lang Ji turned around and looked at Yi Mo in fear. He didn't even see what Yi Mo used to cut her hand. This man was too out of this world. The chairman must not have thought that the person he was trying to catch was someone like this. For those who tried to kill him, Yi Mo was merciless. This woman was ruthless and wanted his life as soon as she attacked. This woman finally understood that her hand and arm was sliced off. She looked at Yi Mo in fear, no longer having her previous rage. She knew that this person could kill her like a chicken. Do you know why I didn't kill you? Yi Mo looked at that woman and said. Seeing that woman no longer dared to say anything, he continued, It's because you seem to have something you rely on. I'll let you live. Go back and get whatever you rely on. I'll finish it once and for all. Oh, I'm called Yi Mo. Don't forget. And Yi Mo turned to Lang Ji and said, Do you know why I also didn't kill you? Lang Ji subconsciously shook his head. He was dumbfounded by Yi Mo's terrifying power. Yi Mo smiled, because I need you to send a message to Qianlong Tu. Tell him he shouldn't have hunted me. I will go visit him. Oh, and I killed his son. Yi Mo then looked at the remaining 3 men and said, Do you know why I didn't kill you guys? This time he didn't wait for them to reply and said once again, Because I need you to clean up the corpses on the ground. There are 9. So pile them up now. I don't like wasting time. Then Yi Mo no longer spoke. The remaining 3 acted very fast. They quickly piled the bodies together. Yi Mo stood up and suddenly formed countless hand signs with his fingers. Breaths of scorching fire descended on the corpses. He was actually shooting out fireballs. Now that Yi Mo was stage 3 Qi gathering, his fireballs could easily destroy the corpses. He destroyed these corpses for 2 reasons. One was to destroy the evidence, and the other to give Lang Ji a warning. But after shooting out 10 fireballs at once, even Yi Mo was a bit tired. Afterwards, he looked at the dazed people and coldly said, "Go back and tell Qianlong too. After I'm done with my errands, I will go visit him." Then he used invisibility magic and disappeared. Seeing Yi Mo just blow fireballs and destroy the corpses, Lang Ji and the others already turned into stone. But now, he even disappeared into thin air. The 3 men who had been pulling bodies finally couldn't handle it and fainted. They could kill people and hack people, but those were ordinary people. The occurrence before them was already extraordinary. Although Lang Ji was stronger than them, even he couldn't handle the situation. Even Xian, Taoist, wouldn't be able to fire fireballs and suddenly disappear. The chairman actually got into conflict with such a person. Was he even a person? That woman like Lang Ji was scared speechless by Yi Mo's powers. If someone like him really went to visit his boss wouldn't be able to survive even if he had 1,000 lives. After a long time, Lang Ji finally reacted and yelled, "Quick! Stop all pursuit on Yi Mo and Shering. These 2 are the same. Take the recording today. I'm going back immediately." Lang Ji shouted nonstop until all the men outside came in. When he was fully awake, he made haste to return and no longer dared for his men to hunt Yi Mo because they weren't even enough for exercise. He even suspected if his boss's army was enough to subdue Yi Mo. Of course, Yi Mo intentionally did that to let Qianlong know not to hunt him anymore. Even if it didn't concern him, Yi Mo was fearless. He believed that there was people stronger than him, but there wouldn't be much. Furthermore, even if there was, they wouldn't be able to kill him. But at this moment, the Yi family in Beijing was gloomy. It was because the family's company in Europe and America suffered heavy damage. Not only did the new cooperation partners leave, even the old partners started to leave and distance themselves. Although the Yi family's enterprise was managed by the second in power, He Liangfu, the ones who really benefited was the Yi family. He Liangfu was the only one in the second generation to follow his mother's surname. Now that many business were stumped, he was the most affected. If a large family was no longer supported by business income, then this family would be set to go downhill. If their business was only partially damaged overseas, then their business in Africa and Hong Kong was unbearable to see. Their personnels frequently disappeared in Africa, and their largest clothes factory was forced to shut down. Comparatively, their situation in China was better. The difference between the Yi family meeting and the Song family meeting was that the master was still the old man Yi Beirong. The Yi family situation was obviously worse than the Song family situation. Last time, the Song family only had a third-generation useless kid die with the latter Song Xiaodan. It was only a youth with a little ambition. But this time, the Yi family had their finances choked by other people. Although this wouldn't beat the Yi family down. In fact, even if all of their businesses abroad bankrupted, the Yi family still wouldn't die down. However, taking damage in their finances meant negative influence elsewhere. Are you sure it's done by Qianlong too? Yi Beirong frowned. He knew that as soon as he left the center, he decided to put the family more into business than politics, since there weren't exceptional offsprings in the younger generations. But before he could do so, they were dealt such a heavy blow. Chapter 116. Tactics. Chapter 116. Tactics, yes. It has now been confirmed that whether it's Europe or not, all our business have been targeted. In Africa, there has been multiple accounts of personnel disappearance. Those who disappeared are all those in the management level. The one speaking was a man in his 50s near Yi Beirong. He was Yi Long, the son of Yi Beirong's big brother. His position was similar to Song Hai in the Song family. Do you know why? We never had any conflict. Is he not afraid that we will sweep his Nanqing and mainland? He dares to challenge our Yi family. Yi Beirong had been in the high command for a long time. Although he was about to come down, his tone was indisputable. He indeed had such capability. No matter how strong Qian Longtu was, he couldn't come to the surface. If he pissed off the Yi family, although they couldn't completely eradicate Qian Longtu, it would be easy for them to exterminate all his forces in mainland. Even if Qian Longtu had his own army, did he dare to bring it to the border? If he did, then it would all be gone with a few cannon sounds. What craze was Qian Longtu on daring to touch the Yi family? Yi Long immediately said, I had investigated. It might be because of Yi Mo. Yi Mo killed Qian Longtu's only son and pissed off Qian Longtu. Qian Longtu probably wants to exhume his anger on us. Yi Mo had been kicked out of the Yi family. Everyone knows this. Since this Qian Longtu dares to do such things, we don't need to be afraid of him. The man speaking was a rather bleak middle-aged man. He was called Yi Huang, Yi Wenqi's elder son. Although his voice wasn't loud, everyone in the meeting room could hear him clearly. Yi Wenqi was in his 50s, barely had any hair on his head, but had thick eyebrows. However, his eyes were sleek and long. Hearing Yi Huang's words, he immediately reproached, Don't talk nonsense. Yi Beirong frowned. And after a while, he asked, I remember last time someone said he was going to investigate Yi Mo's matter. What was that about? Father, it was me. I heard last time that Yi Mo had done quite a lot of things, even Shering from Ming Hai was him, so I couldn't resist but to go investigate him. From the recording I took back, Shering did look like Yi Mo, but I hadn't been able to say this due to other things, Yi Wenjin immediately said. Yi Beirong's eyebrows frowned harder. After a long while, he asked, Where did you know that Shering was Yi Mo? The Song family, Yi Wenjin wasn't an idiot. He realized something was wrong amidst his sentence. He got his news from the Song family, but the Song family was always on bad terms with the Yi family. How could they be nice enough to pass him this message? Yi Beirong sighed. His son was still too immature. He didn't even see through such obvious actions from the Song family. If it was Yi Wenqi or his big brother's son, they would perhaps ask more clearly. However, he knew that even if the Yi family didn't investigate Yi Mo, the Song family would try to make Qian Longtu think that the Yi family took Yi Mo back in. They fell into the Song family's tricks. The Song family could actually let go of Song Shaowen's killer and plan big time for the future by pulling the Yi family down. Now that Qian Longtu had targeted the Yi family wouldn't let Qian Longtu go even if they knew the causes. If the two sides fought, the Song family would definitely help Qian Longtu. In this case, it would be very hard for the Yi family to eradicate the Nanqing in China, or perhaps even impossible. Yi Beirong can imagine that if this tug of war continued, the Yi family would plummet. But even if he knew, the Yi family still had to make a move because the next target for Qian Longtu would be their business in mainland. Plus, if the Yi family was attacked like this and didn't retaliate, then those businessmen who cooperated with the Yi family would all leave them, and their situation would be worse. This was a powerful move by the Song family. Now, even if the Yi family realized it, the Song family wouldn't worry the Yi family not falling for it. He didn't know how much benefits the Song family gave to Qian Longtu to make him willing to be used. Even if Yi Beirong wanted truce with the Song family, they would probably decline because that things have unfolded till now. If the Yi family fell, the Song family would acquire something much bigger than a truce. Yi Mo bought a cheap set of clothes and used the rest of the money to buy a plane ticket. He didn't even have enough to buy a bag. However, Yi Mo returned to his identity when Dong made for him. As for the name Mo Yi, he wouldn't need it anymore. He believed that before he went to find Qian Longtu wouldn't do something such as hunting him down. Although Yi Mo dressed clean, only he had the cheapest clothes on the entire plane. However, he didn't mind this at all. Just when Yemo was prepared to find a seat, he noticed that the jade bracelet the old man behind him actually had spirit chi. Yemo scanned with his spirit sense. He saw that he was situated just in front of the old man, and the man had two women beside him. The woman sitting next to the window had a big mouth cover looking very fashionable. The other one was a middle-aged woman. Yemo wanted to ask the old man where he got his bracelet from. Hence he wanted to sit next to the old man. As such, he could only swap with the middle-aged woman. "Excuse me, can I swap a seat with you?" Yemo looked at the woman and asked. The rule is not to swap seats. Before the woman could reply, the flight attendant had already spoke. The woman looked apologetically at Yemo. She knew what Yemo wanted and wanted to help him, but she wasn't allowed. In her opinion, the young man wanted to hit up the fashionable girl next to the window. The old man also showed an understanding smile. Obviously, he thought the same as the middle-aged woman. Of course, Yemo didn't know what they were thinking. He was disappointed and thought he could only wait until he got off the plane before he could talk to the old man. The fashionable girl heard Yemo's words and scanned him. Her eyes were full of derision. Even the middle-aged woman could see. She sighed. Yemo's courage was good, but he was just too shabby-looking. She wondered how he got this plane ticket. Since he couldn't swap, Yemo didn't force it. He would wait till he got off the plane to talk to the old man. Yemo no longer talked and closed his eyes to meditate. 2 hours later, the plane arrived at Luo Tsang Airport. Yemo got off the plane first but stood outside waiting. When the fashionable girl saw Yemo waiting outside, she felt more disgusted. This time, she intentionally wore a mask outside but was still ineffective against such people. She intentionally walked around because she really didn't want to talk even one sentence with someone like Yemo. The woman obviously knew the old man. Seeing Yemo wait outside, they smiled on the inside, thinking this young man was really persistent. However, that fashionable lady obviously wasn't interested at all. She was even disgusted, but he could still put down his dignity to wait here. However, in order to fulfill Yemo's wishes, the two intentionally took the other route, as well, wanting Yemo to wait for the fashionable lady alone. Seeing the old man not walk his way, Yemo quickly followed. Seeing Yemo follow, that fashionable woman stood still disgusted and glared at Yemo, saying coldly, "Do you want to invite me for dinner?" Yemo was confused by this sentence and frowned. "I don't know you. Why would I invite you to dinner? I don't have money with me now, so if you want to be invited to dinner, ask someone else." Then Yemo didn't waste any time with this woman and walked in front of the old man and asked politely, "Older brother, hello, I'm Yemo, sorry to disturb you, but I want to ask you a question." This was the first time the old man was called an older brother and looked curiously at Yemo before saying, "Hello, young man, ask me. If I know, I will definitely tell you." Yemo pointed at the bracelet and asked, "May I ask where you bought this from? I feel this bracelet is very special. Can I have a look?" Hearing Yemo's words, the old man took the bracelet off and gave it to Yemo without hesitation. However, that middle-aged woman was alert. A strange man asked to look at the old man's bracelet the first time they met, and this young man looked poor. However, the old man had passed the bracelet, so she didn't say anything. Yemo took the bracelet and felt it carefully. There was indeed some faint spirit chi. After a while, he gave it back to the old man. "Your bracelet is very unique, much better than ordinary jade items. If I'm not wrong, this should be a magic artifact that can make people healthy." "Oh, young man, you also know magic artifacts." The old man was immediately interested. He usually liked to walk around the market for ancient artifacts and was taught by many of those in the profession. A magic artifact was a thing that was blessed by someone powerful. However, their functions varied. His bracelet was indeed a magic artifact and was one of high level. However, this was given to him by a friend. This young man could tell his bracelet was a magic artifact, and this made the old man interested, since the young people nowadays rarely believed such things. Chapter 117. Heir who apprehended. Chapter 117. Heir who apprehended. Haha, no one believes such things now. I didn't expect you to be in the profession. If you want to know where these things are, just go to the Lauda Street of Luo Tsang Shimen. It's just that they are mixed with ordinary stuff and is hard to distinguish. Talking about magic artifact, the old man was immediately interested. Yi Mo smiled. He didn't want the magic artifacts. Instead, he wanted the spirit chi inside. In fact, this little spirit chi was useless to him, but he wanted to know how to create or infuse the spirit chi inside. And Yi Mo knew the people here didn't cultivate, so where did they get the spirit chi from? Hearing the old man's words, Yi Mo knew that Dao Lao Street was something like the Sea Treasure Garden in Ninghai. Other people wouldn't be interested in this topic, but Yi Mo and the old man were having an enjoyable conversation. Eventually, Yi Mo knew that the old man was called Lin Huiha. He was someone from the military and lived in retirement at Luo Tsang. Yi Mo also told him that he opened a small clinic and even gave him the address. You're actually a doctor? I really couldn't tell. Hearing Yi Mo was a doctor, Lin Huiha was immediately more interested. Yi Mo smiled and said, I'm not a doctor. I just learned a few recipes. That fashionable girl got more angry hearing Yi Mo's words. He wanted to chase her, but was acting so pretentious. But later on, hearing him get more involved in the conversation with the old man, she understood that he never came for her and wanted to talk to the old man. Her face blushed and realized she was wrong. Yi Mo had now known where the bracelet came from, so he didn't talk more. He bid Lin Huiha goodbye and rushed back to the clinic. He was desperate about his silver heart grass. The Huichun clinic was very desolate, and the door was even barely open. This took Yi Mo by surprise. When he left, the clinic was very popular, but why was it so cold now? When Yi Mo came in, he saw Lu Xiaojun sitting in the shop by herself daydreaming. Where's you, Eru? Yi Mo asked as soon as he came in. He had scanned with his spirit sense and didn't find you, Eru. Who are you? We aren't operating for now. Lu Xiaojun saw the person was very familiar, but didn't know who he was. Yi Mo smiled and said, You don't recognize me. I just don't have the scar on my face. Oh, Master, you're back. What made Lu Xiaojun joyful wasn't the fact that the scar on Yi Mo's face was gone, but he came back. However, she immediately thought of Eru and said, Eru was taken by the cops. Yi Mo was bemused. Who was a very good person, and Yi Mo knew his things and had a medical certificate. Plus, when he left, he told him to not take the disease he couldn't cure. How was he taken by the cops? As if seeing Yi Mo's confusion, Lu Xiaojun quickly explained. Yesterday, a patient came saying that his stomach was uncomfortable. Era looked at it for him and gave him some medicine. He was well soon, but then yesterday he came saying there was probably something wrong with the medicine, but Era couldn't tell what was wrong, so he said he was fine. But then that person said he was fine originally, but had problems after taking the medicine. So that person came to our clinic causing a ruckus, accusing our clinic, and wanted refund. Era didn't want to waste time with these sort of people, so he gave his money back. But then the man said he wanted 10 times the refund. This person was obviously trying to cheat our money. Era got angry and taught him a lesson, but then that man called a lot of hoodlums and Era was injured. Then Era was taken to the police department, talking to hear. Lu Xiaojun rubbed her eyes. It was obvious that Era's injuries weren't light. She sniffed and continued. Era was taken yesterday morning. Then Those people came in the afternoon. I called the police, but they wouldn't come. I had no choice but to give the money back 10 times. But then, some other people we have treated also wanted 10 times refund. I don't know what they want. Only Zhang Pu and his wife continued to persuade the people. Now, Zhang brother is still using his connections to try to bring Arrow out. Then Lu Xiaoken started to cry again. It seemed that she got along well with Yu Eru and thought about him a lot. Yimo's face sunk. The serum he made wasn't expensive, even if he raised the price 10 times much less a few $100s. These people earned, but still want to cause troubles. When hoodlums came to start trouble, not only did they not help, they also joined the ruckus and wanted to earn more. It seemed that human nature was full of greed. At this moment, another middle-aged man walked inside the clinic. When he saw Yi Mo, he dazed for a moment, but quickly recognized that it was the man who saved his son. Brother Zhang. Lu Xiaozhen saw this person and immediately cried out. Zhang Po's face was full of guilt. Sorry, Dr. Mo. The people who started this have too much power. I can't help much. But don't worry, I'll go back and see who can help me. Yi Mo nodded. It seemed that there were still people who would repay goodwill. Hearing Zhang Po's words, he waved his hand and said, Zhang brother, no need. You just need to tell me who is looking for trouble. Zhang Po dazed for a moment. In his eyes, Yi Mo was an outsider. Even his certificates were acquired through him. Now, he didn't want him to mind this. Did he have a way? But since Yi Mo asked, he still said, brother beat up Wang Quan. Although Wang Quan is nothing, his cousin is a hoodlum in Luo Tsang and had good connections with both the underground world and the government officials. After Eru beat Wang Quan, his cousin got people to beat Eru and made the cops take him away. Yi Mo nodded and told Lu Xiaozhen, lend me your phone. Yi Mo took the phone and dialed to Wu Xueming. When he came to Luo Tsang, he heard from Wu Xueming that Luo Tsang was the Metal River's land. Since it was the underground world, he would be better off finding Wu Xueming. Yi brother, I didn't think you would really call me. How are you? Although Wu Xueming's voice was delighted, it didn't have the fervor before. As for why, Yi Mo couldn't be bothered to know. Only Wu Xueming owed him. He didn't owe Wu Xueming anything. I'm good myself, but my mood isn't good. You should have a say in Luo Tsang, right? My disciple was beat up by some hoodlums in Luo Tsang and was sent to the police station. Do you think I would be happy? Yi Mo's tone was very bland. If Wu Xueming couldn't deal with this, then don't blame him for being ruthless. He would wipe out the entire underground world of Luo Tsang. This group of bastards, Yi brother, don't worry. I'll give you a resolution soon, Wu Xueming said hurriedly. Although he was annoyed, he didn't think the situation was too serious. It was just Yi Mo's disciple. Yi Mo smiled and said, Do you think I'm worried? I'm not afraid of even Qianlong Tu. Why would I be afraid of a few hoodlums? Then, Yi Mo just hung up the phone. He didn't believe that Wu Xueming didn't know he opened up a clinic in Luo Tsang. Since he knew, and this sort of thing still happened, he could see Wu Xueming's attitude. If Wu Xueming didn't deal with this properly, then he wouldn't hold back. Meanwhile, Wu Xueming felt cold. He seemed to realize that his attitude was problematic. He was all too clear on Yi Mo's ferocity, and he saved his life. Now that Yi Mo had this attitude, it meant that he was prepared to open up his identity to the public. Since he dared to do so, it meant that he had the power to fight with Qianlong Tu. Would a person who dared to challenge Qianlong Tu be afraid of a small gang in Luo Tsang? Plus, Wu Xueming didn't want to get on the bad side of Yi Mo. Yi Mo saved his life, and was someone he couldn't see through. Perhaps he really was to blame for this. He indeed didn't take notice of Yi Mo's situation in Luo Tsang. He only knew that Yi Mo opened a clinic in Luo Tsang and didn't think much of it. In his opinion, he didn't think his men would cause trouble at such a far-off place, so he didn't give specific orders. It was mainly because he had been so busy recently. But now his men started trouble with Yi Mo originally. He didn't think it would be much if Yi Mo's disciple was beat up. At most, he would beat that hoodlum up and pay some money. But now, Yi Mo's attitude meant that he had a bad perception towards him. Wu Xueming didn't dare to drag it out and immediately called Luo Tsang. Master, did you just... Lu Xiaozhen saw that Yi Mo only called and no longer spoke of the issue and felt nervous. That is enough. Zhang didn't know who Yi Mo called, but Yi Mo just called someone, and the case was solved. Was something he ran around for 2 days so easily solved? Yi Mo nodded and said, "It should be fine." "Thank you for these 2 days, Zhang brother." Zhang hurried and waved his hand. "This is nothing. It's what I should do." Yi Mo said, "Someday, bring your child to me again. And don't promote our clinic anymore because our clinic is about to change." Zhang clearly knew Yi Mo's ability. Now that Yi Mo said he would look at his child for him, he was extremely happy. Ever since Yi Mo looked at his son last time, he didn't get sick again. And although he still brought his child to the hospital after Yi Mo looked at it, he just spent some money and got nothing solved. So it was due to Yi Mo that his son didn't have any problems up until now. Yi Mo turned to look at Lu Xiaozhen, who still had red eyes. She wasn't bad looking and seemed to be a good person. If she really liked Yueru, she would be a good fit. Yi Mo saw a computer and printer and thought that the business here must have been good. Eru even bought a computer. Seeing Yi Mo look at the computer, Lu Xiaozhen hurried to say, "Because the business was so good before, I suggested to buy a computer to print forms. This would save a lot of time." Yi Mo nodded. "We don't need this anymore because our business won't be too good later." Why? Lu Xiaozhen thought that the business would only get better after Master came back. So how could it get worse? Chapter 118. $100,000 Waiting List Fee. Chapter 118. $100,000 waiting list fee. I'll go to the backyard first and talk to you guys after Eru comes back. Then Yi Mo just headed straight for the backyard. Right now, he was most concerned with how the silver heart grass was going. He still needed them to cultivate. The silver heart grass hadn't budded yet. Yi Mo examined closely. Although the seeds hadn't died, he felt that the life force inside wasn't as strong as when it was in Ninghai. It was just a bit better than Flowing Snake. Yi Mo shook his head and was bemused. Why didn't it work when the soil type was the same? Luckily, these seeds didn't die. If even these died too, he would only have 5 left. That wouldn't be a good news. There was already car sound outside. Yi Mo knew that Eru was sent back. The speed was quite fast. When Yi Mo came out, Lu Xiaozhen was holding Yueru as he stumbled. It seemed that his injuries weren't minor. "Master, although Yueru recognized Yi Mo, Yi Mo's change was too big." Yi Mo nodded and said, "We'll talk about this later." "Who did this to you?" "I did it." "What?" "Don't think he would be fine, just because you found someone to release him. I'll still beat him up again." A teen in his 20s had a cigar in his mouth as he walked over. He heard Yi Mo's words and pointed his finger at Yi Mo and glanced at the 2 cops who sent Yueru back. Yi Mo scanned this teen and coldly said, "You won't have another chance. F***CK. You're asking for it. I'm still going to beat him up now. What are you going to do?" Then he threw his cigar and approached. The 2 cops knew who said to release Yueru. Seeing that Wang Quan was still cocky, they immediately knew he was dead. They quickly said goodbye and left knowing that the conflict that was about to occur wasn't something they could handle. "Wang Quan, what are you barking about? Hurry up and apologize to this friend." A black Mercedes drove, flying by, and stopped in front of Yi Mo. "Cousin, this guy's really top *T. Don't be afraid of him. How dare he act tough in Luo Tsang?" Wang Quan seemed to feel uncomfortable if he didn't teach Yi Mo a lesson. But hearing the man from the Mercedes talk, he didn't continue approaching. The man who got off approached Wang Quan and immediately took out a cigarette and walked up in front of Yi Mo, smiling. "Hello, I know we're not familiar. Wang Quan is my cousin. Please forgive him. I'm Feng Jihua, but don't worry, there won't be anyone who will come to cause trouble at your place again." Feng Jihua was the overlord in Luo Tsang. Yu Eru and Lu Xiaozhen weren't the innocent people before. Seeing Yimo's phone call bringing back Yu Eru immediately, and Feng Jihua still talking to her master, so politely, they almost thought they saw wrong. However, what shocked them more was to come. Yi Mo stared at Feng Jihua coldly and said, "What sort of thing do you think you are? Piss off." Feng Jihua's face changed. He didn't think that with his power in Luo Tsang, Yi Mo would still be so arrogant with him after he was so polite. His face immediately looked bad. Since when did he receive this sort of disdain? He was thinking that this Yi Mo only knew some brother in the gang, and that brother just mentioned him to Brother Hong. Not long ago, Brother Hong called and just said a few sentences about the release of Yu Eru and immediately hung up. He thought that Yu Eru had some connections in the family and found Brother Hong. Brother Hong casually said it. Moreover, to show his seriousness for Brother Hong's words, he personally came. After all, his cousin did beat up the person. But he didn't expect to be sticking his hot face to a cold butt. The man's master didn't even take him seriously. This man, Feng Jihua, who had been in the gang for a long time, started to lose face. This Yi Mo probably went through countless connections to get to Brother Hong. Otherwise, Brother Hong wouldn't just make such a light-hearted call. Now that he was polite to Yi Mo dared to be rude. "Who did this guy think he was? Since I'm not much of a thing, then I'll leave. Wang Quan, let's go." Feng Jihua turned with a blue face. If he wasn't clear on who Yi Mo was connected with, he would have made a move already. But now that he left, it didn't mean he would let it go. After he investigated who was behind Yi Mo, he would definitely make sure this little clinic had a pleasant time. Yi Mo glared coldly as Feng Jihua left with Wang Quan. He didn't say anything more. He wouldn't teach these people a lesson in such a boisterous manner. Moreover, even if he did, he would go to their base. He was still unhappy with the way Wu Xueming dealt with this. If Wu Xueming dealt with it well, he would perhaps go back. However, now that he wasn't satisfied, he would deal with it himself. "Master, when did you come back?" Although the two didn't understand why Yi Mo kicked away the hoodlum who came to apologize in such a manner, but Yu Eru never asked Yi Mo even if he didn't understand. Yi Mo checked Yu Eru's body. It was indeed beat up seriously, and there was even some internal injuries. If Yu Eru wasn't strong, he would perhaps not be able to make it and die. Yi Mo was furious. These people just didn't take the lives of ordinary people seriously. If Yu Eru wasn't his disciple, then he would just be beat for no reason. Even if he was killed, it would only be ruled as suicide. Wang Quan is a hoodlum. It's understandable why he wanted his money back, but why did so many other people want refund too? While Yi Mo was treating Yu Eru, he couldn't understand this problem. After all, there were hundreds of people. There couldn't be so much disgusting people in the world. Yu Eru had been living in Luo Tsang for more than a month. He was no longer the noob who just entered the market. He had experienced all sorts of things while at the clinic. Now that Yi Mo asked, he immediately said many people were urged by Wang Quan, and a small portion of people just wanted to earn some benefits. However, most people didn't come. Yi Mo nodded and thought most? Not necessarily. It was just that the clinic only opened for a month. After staying silent for a while, Yi Mo said, "From now on, our clinic no longer treats common colds, aches, and fever. They can go to the hospital for these things. I will add a waiting list fee. Those without a waiting list place won't be treated." "Master, Are we going to take waiting list fees like the hospital? How much do we charge? Also $10 or so. Lu Xiaojun was shocked to hear that the clinic was charging waiting list fee. Yi Mo smiled and said, that will be charged, but it won't be just $10 or so. Those who want to be treated here must pay $100,000 waiting list fee for now. What? Before Yi Mo even finished speaking, Yu Eru and Lu Xiaojun were shocked out of their minds. $100,000 waiting list fee? The whole world didn't have such expensive waiting list fee. Yes, $100,000. And we must state that regardless of the outcome, the waiting list fee won't be refunded. Those patients who wish to be treated must sign a signature, and each month there could only be one patient. They need to pay more for treatment fee. If there are no patients, you can just study yourselves. Ask me if you don't understand anything. Yi Mo nodded. The reason he said this was because he didn't open the clinic to treat colds, but to grow the silver heart grass. Since it was far from ready, he didn't need to be involved in conflicts with the neighbors. They can go to the hospital for small colds, and his clinic wouldn't be able to handle that much anyways. Furthermore, some people were indeed disgusting. He didn't need to be doing a losing business. Although the price for his serums wasn't a loss for Yi Mo, it was a loss. The reason the clinic had such an exorbitant price was, first, to avoid too many people, and second, to give him time to cultivate and grow the silver heart grass. The reason he said no refund for the waiting list fee was because he felt normal disease wouldn't be hard for him. If it really was too hard, then he just wouldn't let them go on the waiting list. But master, if we do this, aren't we shutting down ourselves? Yu Eru immediately said. Yi Mo nod. I was planning to go look for a far-off mansion. I plan to buy one. After we move away, we can close this clinic. Buy a mansion? Even if it's a far-off place, it would be a few million. Master, if we buy a distant place, then there would less people who would come for treatment, Lu Xiaojun said. She was concerned about these things. Yi Mo smiled and said, if the wine smells good, it doesn't matter if the shop is deep in the alley. You just need to learn the methods of cooking medicine with Yu Eru. It doesn't matter if we wait a year or two before we open up. As for money, don't worry. I'm going to Beijing now. Some people owe me, and I'm going to take it back. Yi Mo really wasn't concerned about money. Li, who owed him $500,000, and he still needed to solve things with Qian Long too. Perhaps he would be able to take some back. As for the Song family, if even Qian Long Tu didn't dare to touch him, then he didn't believe the Song family would dare to. Then after you leave Luo Tsang, Master, do we still open the clinic? Yu Eru was feeling anxious. A waiting list fee costed 100,000. If this spread out, they would be known immediately. No need to open up, and don't promote the waiting list fee. Xiaojun, you can register for a website and write that it can cure all sorts of absurd disease. However, if you want to know specific details, you must become a member of the website. The membership fee is 10,000 when you apply for treatment. You must clearly write out the information about the condition. If we accept, then they need to pay 100,000 waiting list fee. Yi Mo thought about it and said he felt this was the best way. 1, he didn't need to expose himself. 2nd, he could avoid unnecessary conflict, as well as the media attention. Chapter 119. People will always change. Chapter 119. People will always change. Feng Jihua definitely didn't expect that the reason Wu Hong hung up the phone was because he was worried and took the plane from Shenyang to Luo Tsang. Wu Xueming's original words were, Yi Mo from the Huichun Clinic saved my life, and I call him brother. You guys did well. Actually dared to take his disciple into the police station and beat him up. Immediately go apologize to him. If you can't deal with it in a way Yi Mo is pleased, then you know the consequence. Wu Xueming's intentions were that, since Yi Mo called him, then he should do things well. However, since Wu Hong helped him do a lot of things lately, Of course, he wouldn't do anything to him. However, he was going to use Yi Mo's incident to give him some necessary beating. Wu Hong was immediately worried. He didn't know that this thing would concern the person who controlled the actual power of Metal River, Wu Xueming, who would even tell him to apologize. From this, he could see what sort of person Yi Mo was. If he couldn't make Yi Mo satisfied, then he would know the consequence. What was the consequence? No one dared to say a thing if a few minor gang members disappeared. Thus, he was worried and quickly called Fang Jihua to send the people back. The reason he hung up was to get to Luo Tsang as soon as possible to apologize to Yi Mo. Luo Tsang's otherworldly leisure was a business of Metal River and was the gathering place for the gang. However, the person responsible here temporarily was Fang Jihua, and he was only a hoodlum before. He was only able to manage otherworldly leisure half a month ago. Ever since he became the man responsible for the business, Fang Jihua was able to talk to Brother Hong directly and was able to be more tough. He even put on the big brother act sometimes. He was planning to get his cousin into the place too some time later, at least to be a small head. However, he just hadn't had the time to do this yet. After he had some pleasure at his lover's place, Fang Jihua finally felt better. But when he walked into otherworldly leisure, he unexpectedly saw his big bosses, Wu Hong's personal attendant, Three Snake. "Why are you here? Didn't Brother Hong just go to Shenyang?" Fang Jihua looked at Three Snake in surprise. Three Snake didn't have his usual smile and just said with a bleak face, "Brother Hong is back and waiting for you in the underground room." Hearing Three Snake's words, Fang Jihua's heart sunk. A bad feeling overcame his heart. Wu Hong went to Shenyang this time because of something very important. After he finished at Shenyang, he would go to Jin City. Why would he suddenly come back to Luo Tsang? Even if he came to Luo Tsang, he rarely came here. But today, not only did he come back to Luo Tsang, he also came to otherworldly leisure. When Fang Jihua walked into the basement, his heart started to beat rapidly. His hoodlum cousin, Wang Quan, seemed to have his legs broken as he crouched in fear. On the two sides stood more than 10 men he had never seen before. Brother Hong, he only spoke 2 words and stopped because he suddenly realized that even the biggest head in his eyes was standing below. The highest was a screen, and the screen showed a middle-aged man. Could it be? Although Fang Jihua didn't know Wu Xueming, it didn't mean he hadn't heard of his force. It was said that he forced Huang off the seat of power. As for where Huang went, no one dared to talk and ask, so when he saw the man there, and Wu Hong, who was also very respectful towards him, he guessed that this man was Wu Xueming. "You are Fang Jihua?" Wu Xueming's voice was very cold. If Yi Mo was here, even if he was looking at the screen, he would realize this was not the same Wu Xueming as a month ago. Now he seemed cold and less lively as before. In this month's time, Wu Xueming killed countless people who didn't obey him. Now, his position was fully consolidated. However, only he knew if it was really consolidated. Yes, Fang Jihua felt the chills facing Wu Xueming's cold eyes. Wu Hong suddenly walked in front of Fang Jihua and gave him 2 slaps on the face. F***CK. You were told to apologize, not to act tough. Then, Wu Hong kicked on Fang Jihua's leg. Fang Jihua howled out in pain and knelt on the ground. Now, he realized that Yi Mo wasn't so simple. "Brother Ming, how about breaking Fang Jihua's leg and make him apologize to Yi Mo?" Wu Hong broke Fang Jihua's leg and carefully said, "No need. Yi brother wouldn't want to see this sort of trash." Wu Xueming immediately refused Wu Hong's proposal. He understood Yi Mo's personality. Yi Mo hated people like Fang Jihua the most. Hearing Wu Xueming's words, Fang Jihua nearly fainted. Who was he acting tough in front of? It was someone even Wu Xueming calls brother. Wang Quan was scared dumbfounded. He had never seen such a scene. He was just a small hoodlum. Since when could he be in the same room with such gang leaders, even if it was just a video? although he wanted to see the gang leaders, but he didn't expect to see them under such circumstances. Break their legs and bring them over to the clinic once. Then Wu Hong, go apologize yourself. Take 100,000 for Arrow's treatment fee. Don't take too much. Yemo doesn't like to owe people. Just say that I don't have time. Otherwise, I would have came personally. Then Wu Xueming sat on the seat a little disinterested. A month ago, he thought that Yemo was his best friend, but now he felt he had changed a lot. Perhaps it was the feeling of being on the top. He developed extreme lust for power. He even thought that if Yemo wasn't so strong and cruel, would he even come personally to deal with such minor problems? Not only this, he felt that recently Yu Miaodong had skewed views of him and wasn't as intimate as before. Did he really change too much? But he didn't want to give up the pleasure of power. He just needed to say one word, and he could decide a person's life or death, decide the life of a business. He very much enjoyed this feeling. It didn't matter before since he hadn't tried it, but now that he did, he would definitely not give it up. When Fang Jihua and Wang Quan's cries sounded, he even felt disgusted. He wanted to kill these two very much, but he knew that although these two were irrelevant people, killing them would make his brothers feel disheartened. Plus, it was all too common for people in the lower levels to do things like Wang Quan. It was just that Wang Quan found a wrong target. When Wang Quan and Fang Jihua passed by the clinic looking like mummies, Yemo knew of it because Wu Hong also came and brought $100,000 compensation. Yemo didn't refuse. When he heard Wu Xueming's words, he understood that their friendship had ended. He didn't care about Wu Xueming's attitude. He didn't owe him. Only Wu Xueming owed him. Sometimes he really couldn't judge people based on his straightforward perception. A man who could die for a woman couldn't be very ruthless. At least Yemo approved of such a person. But now, although Yemo didn't see Wu Xueming, he could tell from the attitude in which Wu Xueming dealt with this that he had changed a lot. Instead, Fang Nan gave him a much better perception, or perhaps a more real perception. Yemo didn't think about these things too much. For him, since Wu Xueming dealt with it personally, he would let it go. He didn't need to waste his time for this. As for treating Wu Hong, who came to apologize, he had even less interest, seeing that Yemo dealt with things lightning fast and received $100,000 compensation. Yu Eru and Lu Xiaojun felt more reverent towards Yemo. This master was too powerful than they thought. Lu Xiaojun originally just wanted to find a place to settle after graduation, but she didn't expect to take a liking into Yu Eru. She admired Yu Eru's skills, and when she knew that Yu Eru learned everything from Yemo, Lu Xiaojun was more reverent towards Yemo. What made her excited was that Yemo actually agreed to her studying medicine with Eru. This master looked even younger than Eru, but how was he so powerful? Lu Xiaojun asked Yu Eru, but Yu Eru met Yemo on the train, also knew nothing about him. Originally, after dealing with this, Yemo planned to go to Beijing after he consolidated his stage 3 Qi gathering. He had two things to do there. One was to redeem his promise to Zhuo Aigua, and another was to ask Li who to get the $500,000. As for whether he should go to the Song family, he hadn't decided yet. After all, although he was stage 3 Qi gather, it wasn't a wise choice to fight with the Song family overtly. The Song family wasn't Qianlong Tu whom he could compare power with. If he was to fight against the Song family, there would be a lot of concerns. One misstep, and he might not even be able to stay here. Now, Yemo knew of some things about ancient martial arts. At the same time, he understood that there was still a lot people stronger than him. It had only been 4 days, and someone had already come to look for Yemo. It was the person he met on the plane, Lin Hueha, older brother. How do you have the time to come to my small clinic? When Yemo departed the airport, he told Lin Hueha his address, but didn't expect this old man to really come. He brother Yi, As soon as I saw you really have a clinic here, I knew I found the right person, and you didn't lie to me. It was right of me to come look for you today. There's something that I don't know if you're interested." Lin Hueha saw that Yemo really did live here, just as he said, and had a better impression of Yemo. Chapter 120, Magic Artifact Social. Chapter 120, Magic Artifact Social. What thing? Yemo thought that he knew the old man because of Magic Artifact Bracelet. Was it related to Magic Artifact? 3 days later, West Door, Lauda Street, will open a Magic Artifact Exhibition Social. It is said that all the elite in the profession of the country will go. Even some foreign merchants are attending, and some of the products will be provided by the ancient martial arts sections. Of course, they want to sell for money. If you're interested, brother, then you can come with me. When Lin Hueha spoke, he was very excited. After speaking, he seemed to have thought of something and said, "Oh, perhaps you haven't heard of ancient martial arts, no matter. I'll explain it to you then. In fact, I don't know much, but the things they have are really good products. They would only sell a small portion each year to exchange for money. However, it's just that the price is overwhelming high." Hearing there was ancient martial arts sects, Yemo was interested. Even if these sects weren't involved, he wanted to see how the magic artifacts were here. He was thinking if Luo Susu was also from the ancient martial arts sections. It seemed so. Now, he didn't have any contact of Luo Susu, and didn't even know where she lived. If he knew where she lived, then perhaps he would be able to go find her. Even if he was to, it would have to wait after he had dealt with Qianlong too. But hearing Lin Hueha say the products were overwhelming expensive, he didn't have that much money. He only had $100,000, and he just gave it to Heir Hu. As for Li, whose $500,000, he hadn't asked for it yet. As such, he couldn't help but say, "But I don't have much money, and the prices are so high." Lin Hueha also showed his hands and said, "I don't have much money either. I'm just going there for a look." Yemo thought and agreed. He would go there first and see. Plus, no matter how good their magic artifact was, could it be better than his? He was a real cultivator. Perhaps he could bring something there to sell. Older brother Lin, before Yemo finished his words, he was interrupted by Lin Hueha. "I'll call you brother from now on, so you just call me Brother Lin. It's hard nowadays to find a friend who also likes magical artifacts. Why not? In that case, I won't be polite then." Yemo wasn't someone too fussed about this. Although Lin Hueha was so much older than him, he was open. "Do you think I can bring something to sell there?" Yemo hadn't been to this social before, so he had to ask Lin Hueha. Lin Hueha asked in surprise, "Yi brother, you can make your own magic artifact?" Yemo smiled and said, "I can make some, but they are all ordinary. I'm preparing to make some simple artifacts and some medical pills I made." "Does that work?" "Of course it does. I'll help you get a stall. You go prepare the things first. I'll come for you 3 days later." Although Lin Hueha was surprised, he felt it was normal after thinking about it. After all, Yemo could recognize magical artifacts. Now that he said he could make some simple ones, it wasn't too surprising. There were too many magical artifacts on the market, but no one knew if they were really effective. Even if he made a few fake ones, as long as he sold it, it would be fine. There were too much fake ones in the market now. Perhaps there was only one real one amongst 10,000. In 3 days' time, Yemo made 5 magical artifact necklaces. It was much cheaper to make than bracelet, but this time, Yemo didn't use cheap jade. He had $100,000 now and wanted to sell these for a good price, so he used good jade, not including production cost. Each necklace costed more than $10,000 just for material cost. Other than this, he used the remaining $90,000 to buy some medical herbs, putting them with the ones he collected from the borderlands. He made some pills, 12 in total, but he prepared 12 bottles. He wanted to sell these for a good price. Because this exhibition social was showing runic paper, magic artifact, and all sorts of blessed items, it would catch too much attention if he sold those things here. As for runes, he didn't dare to make them because his ones were too extraordinary compared to the ones here. The runes sold here were usually made by street artists. Some had mind-cleansing properties, but compared to Yimo's runes, they couldn't even be said to be runes. Not only could Yimo's runes attack, it could also cure disease. Now that he was stage 3 chi gathering, the attacking runes he make could even kill people. It would cause too much sensation. Plus, it took too long to make them. Even though Yimo was stage 3 chi gathering now, it would be great if he could make one a day. As for medical pills and protective necklaces, if he sold it, people could only know its effect after time. Plus, even if the person who bought it knew of the effects, they wouldn't know who sold it. From Lin Hui's description, there would be so many people going, and it would be very messy. Who would know he sold it? Even if they did, he could push the blame to someone else. Plus, Lin Hui had told him, the buyers only looked if the items were real. They didn't care who sold it. Only some of the ancient martial arts sex items were popular, but they were very little in amount. When Yimo prepared everything, Lin Huiha had already come looking for him. But this time, he didn't come by himself. He was sent here by a car. Yimo gave a medical pill to Lin Huiha. Lin Huiha didn't act polite and just took it. In his eyes, Yimo's skills were passed down from his ancestors. Although it could cure some diseases, it was very limited. The reason he took it was to accept Yimo's goodwill and that he helped Yimo. If he didn't take something, perhaps Yimo would doubt him. Seeing Lin Huiha just take the pill without even asking him about its effects, Yimo knew what Lin Huiha thought, but didn't care. He just reminded, Lin brother, this pill is passed down from my ancestors called emergency pill. Not only does it have emergency saving effects, but can also cure some internal wounds. Although Yimo reminded Lin Huiha still didn't care that much. However, that young driver smiled after hearing the words. It was Lin Huiha's character to take a liking into these strange stuff. Even the friends he made seemed to be selling fake medicine. But from his conversation, Yimo got to know that Lin Huiha was originally the mayor of Huyang City, but had retired. However, his son, Lin Jidan, was the current vice mayor of Luotsang, but Lin Huiha didn't talk much about this. Yimo thought no wonder that despite looking amicable, Lin Huiha had the temperature of someone in authority. He was the last mayor. Lin Huiha saw that Yimo's expression remained the same after introducing himself and still called him Brother Lin. Lin Huiha nodded to himself. He felt that Yimo was indeed not as simple as he looked. This could be seen from their conversation. The reason Lin Huiha told him his identity was to see if Yimo was someone to form stronger bonds with. However, he would be no different to normal people in Yimo's eyes, even if he was the American president, much less a mayor. If someone else was to suddenly know that they met a mayor, they would immediately try to suck up to him, especially when this mayor's son was also a mayor. However, Yimo still treated him like a normal person without any signs of excitement or abnormality. He was still mainly asking about the exhibition social. After talking with Lin Huiha, Yimo got to know more about the exhibition. Normally, those who could go in were rich merchants or people with a certain degree of fame. Not everyone could go. It meant that it was mainly due to Lin Huiha that Yimo could go in. The place could allow for 3,000 people, and it would still be very spacious. However, due to the restrictions of the place, those people who came were either rich or powerful. So other than the stalls exhibiting items, the entire place would be rather empty. The middle of the place even had a testing area. Lin Huiha also asked others for help to get Yimo a stall. However, because most people's stalls took up a large place, Yimo could only get a small corner at the edge. However, This was enough for Yi Mo. He wasn't selling much and didn't want to be too high profile. When Yi Mo and Lin Huia came in, he showed Yi Mo his stall and quickly went to meet his old friends. He came to this place wanting to buy another good artifact, but he wasn't too familiar with this. He originally wanted Yi Mo to help him, but now that Yi Mo had his business, he could only get a few old friends to look with him before asking Yi Mo to make the final decision. Yi Mo didn't have much things to begin with. He really only needed a table. His things were in his pockets and could be taken away easily, unlike most stalls that were not only big but also had huge banners. Just besides Yi Mo's stall, there were all sorts of banners showcasing stalls. However, a banner not far ahead caught Yi Mo's attention. It said protective necklace and had a big ancient word. Yi Mo thought this was probably the stall the ancient martial arts sects had. He could go have a look later and ask about Luo Susu's sect. Chapter 121. Yi Mo's Stall. Chapter 121. Yi Mo's Stall. Yi Mo estimated that the price for his stall wasn't cheap. By the looks of it, either Lin Huiha or someone else paid for him. However, Yi Mo didn't necessarily have to give money because the cost for that pill was more than 10,000. Yi Mo came relatively early, but just when he sat down in front of his stall, people progressively came in. The very spacious exhibition center immediately became very populous. The people who came here all seemed to have some social status, although it was loud. It wasn't boisterous. Most of the people headed straight for where they were interested, looking for what they wanted and asking for the price. However, Yi Mo found that even the cheapest things here were a few $1,000s. Better things were easily in the 10,000s and hundreds of thousands, even million. Looking at these people spend money so easily, Yi Mo couldn't help but sigh that a part of the people in this world were very rich. Thinking back before, he was very happy that one charm could sell for $10,000, but now Yi Mo found that a very polished-looking charm that had no use was sold for $18,800. He scanned with his spirit sense and found that the best sellers here were some protective amulets or artifacts that gave good fortune or health. Those stalls that had ancient words had especially good business. Yi Mo took notice of their things. The cheapest one was around $200,000 and was non-negotiable. Although these stalls had good business, other stalls didn't dare to copy them. Otherwise, using those ancient characters would make their business better too. However, Yi Mo found that the real magic artifacts here were much. There were rarely any which emitted spirit chi. Even those stalls with ancient characters didn't have much. There was rarely one or two, but the price was absurd. However, just because they didn't emit spirit chi, it didn't mean they were useless. Yi Mo had great expertise in this. He scanned with his spirit sense and knew there were some real magic artifacts. However, although they look exquisite, their functions really couldn't be praised. It could be said that not one could be even 1% effective as his. However, what made Yi Mo disappointed was that although his things were the best and didn't intend to sell for much, his stall was still the least visited. Although there were a lot of people, they rarely came to his stall. Even if they did, they didn't even bother to ask for the price. This business was hard. Yi Mo sighed to himself. It seemed that it was due to his small stall and no banner. If he couldn't sell one, then he wouldn't be able to get back a single dollar of the 100K he invested. Suddenly, Yi Mo saw someone familiar. It was the fashionable girl he saw on the plane. However, she had a young man in his 20s to 30s by her side. Yi Mo didn't expect her to be interested in magical artifacts. When Yi Mo looked at her, she just happened to turn around and see Yi Mo. This was a good-looking woman, but Yi Mo didn't like her just by looking at her eyes. It wasn't that her eyes weren't pretty, they were just too snobbish. Her lips were also a bit thin, but her sunflower seed-shaped face was quite nice. However, paired with her eyes, it made Yi Mo feel repulsed. She obviously saw that Yi Mo had a stall and walked over immediately. Originally, she thought Yi Mo was looking for her in the airport, but didn't expect to lose her face. This broke her good self-esteem, making her very unhappy. Didn't think you sold these things. How much is this necklace? Get one for me. I'll think of it as charity. This woman had a disdainful look, meaning that she was doing charity by buying something since Yi Mo's stall was so cold. 100,000. Yi Mo didn't even bother to raise his head. The woman's expression made him feel disgusted. It was as though he was a beggar. Originally, Yi Mo planned to sell this necklace for $50K, $80K, but because he was unhappy, he just said $100,000. And he saw that those ancient martial arts stalls sold things for $100K, $200K at least, but compared to his necklace, they were miles away. What? This woman exclaimed. But she immediately realized she lost her rich lady attitude and sneered. Do you think you're an ancient stall? A necklace that is worth only a few $100s becomes $100,000. Dee, you want to extort money from me just because I took pity in you. No wonder you don't have business. Keep trying to sell that. And Yen, why waste your time with these sort of people? If you want a necklace, we'll go look for one at an ancient stall. I'll pick one for you for your birthday next month, the man at her side said quickly. This woman frowned and looked at Yi Mo's necklace, realizing that she actually quite liked this style. That necklace looked quite pleasant, but this guy was too annoying. I'll give you 10K. You're earning big. I'll have one of the necklace. From in Yan's eyes, she was giving Yi Mo a lot by buying a necklace that wasn't worth more than $1,000 for $10,000. Originally, she adopted a pitiful attitude, but because she saw how pretty it was, she wanted to buy one, but didn't think this shabby-looking stall owner dared to extort her. Not selling, Yi Mo didn't even want to talk to this woman anymore. Humph, I'm giving you money. Are you selling or not? This woman was quite annoyed. In her eyes, Yi Mo was too greedy. Yi Mo plainly said, Do you want to buy with force? The thing is mine. I can sell it for however much I want. I didn't force you to buy. Move aside. Don't block my business. Okay, I'll see how much you can sell today. Don't come begging for me to buy it in the end. 100K, I'll see how many you can sell. This fashionable lady didn't heed to the persuasion of the man beside her and stood by the side, wanting to see if Yi Mo could really sell it. Yi Mo sneered. $100K is the price just then. Now it's $200,000. He was extremely unhappy with this woman. It was his business. What did she have to do with it? He was the one who decided whether or not he sold it. Yu and Yen was infuriated by Yi Mo's words. In her eyes, Yi Mo was doing it for her. $100,000 wasn't much for her, but she just wasn't happy. Although she liked this necklace, she didn't want to spend an extra $90,000 for no reason. This necklace is so pretty. How much is it? A middle-aged man brought two girls that were younger than 20 past Yi Mo's stall, and one of the girls suddenly discovered Yi Mo's necklace and stopped immediately in exclamation. This middle-aged man also stopped and said, You've been around once, and hardly said anything was beautiful. If you like it, Dad will buy one each for you too. Yi Mo looked at these two girls. They looked very alike and refreshing, so perhaps they were twins. But hearing the man's tone, he seemed to be very rich. He meant that as long as his daughters liked it, he would buy it, but his daughters didn't find anything they liked after looking around for a while. Dad, I want one too. There are two exactly, one each for me. And Sis, this necklace is really pretty, another girl said quickly. Yi Mo was speechless. The magic artifacts he made were for protection and health, but they attracted people due to their looks. Boss, how much is one? The middle-aged man asked immediately. He wants to sell high few $100 worth thing for $200,000, and Yen, who hadn't walked away, immediately said, Yemo coldly looked at Yen. This woman was too annoying. If she didn't buy, she can piss off, but she was still being nosy here. What are you looking at? Can't I tell the truth to others? And Yen looked at Yemo's glare and immediately yelled out in discomfort. Yemo didn't want to deal with her. He only sold his things to those who realized its worth. However, the middle-aged man just smiled and didn't seem to change his will-do to Yan's words. He just looked at Yemo and asked, "May I ask, is this $200,000? Seeing that the middle-aged man still asking this question even after hearing Yan's words, he immediately knew this middle-aged man had his own will and was very rich, or he didn't care about this money for his daughter's birthday. Indeed, $200,000. Yemo didn't think it was expensive to sell one necklace for $200,000. His necklace was worth this. Those that were worse than his could sell for more than this. Okay, I'll have two. This necklace is very pretty indeed, this middle-aged man immediately said. Yemo heard the middle-aged man and hurried to say, "I'm not selling this necklace for $200,000 for its looks. It has two functions. One is for a lifetime, and that is to promote health. Those who wear this would rarely get sick. Another function is defensive. It has 3 charges. After using it up, this necklace would be gone." Humph. Seeing that Yemo was still bluffing, and Yen felt more annoyed, but she couldn't do anything. This middle-aged man obviously didn't care about Yemo's words. In his opinion, if Yemo's necklace really had such powers, he wouldn't be selling it on such a small stall. "Dad, you should buy one too. It has defensive powers. We can have one each," one girl immediately said. Chapter 122. Buying Spree. Chapter 122. Buying Spree. The middle-aged man obviously loved his daughters, and hearing their words, he immediately said, "Okay, one of each of them." "Boss, is there another one of these?" "Yes." Yemo took out a third necklace and put it on the table. Seeing Yemo take out a third one, there was more contempt in Yan's eyes. If its functions were really as Yemo said so, then this necklace should be very precious, but he was able to take out this many at once. Thus, it could be seen that this was probably mass-produced from a small factory. If real magic artifacts could be made so easily, then magic artifacts would be sold cheap and not worth money. Although she wasn't too familiar with the business, she still understood that magic artifacts were rare. Even here, at Lauda Street, there weren't a few real ones. Everyone knew this, but there was still a lot of people who bought them. There was no other reason but that they wanted to meet a real one. Although that middle-aged man knew Yemo's items were fake, he was disappointed after seeing Yemo take out so much. However, that disappointment went away quickly. He knew it was fake and only bought it because his daughters liked them. "Boss, I want 3. Help me package it, please." This middle-aged man was straightforward. "Okay, 3 is $600,000, but I'll give you a discount, $500,000. Yemo casually deducted $100,000. Seeing Yemo deduct $100,000, this middle-aged man found himself bemused. In his eyes, people like Yemo were here to scam people. The more he did, the better. How could he just take off $100,000? Of course, $100,000 wasn't much for him, but looking at Yemo's clothing, $100,000 should be a big number. But soon, he understood that Yemo really took off $100,000. This wasn't 100 or 2, it was a whole $100,000. However, Yemo didn't feel it was anything. He had a good impression of the middle-aged man. Although $100,000 wasn't little, he felt that money wasn't the most important thing. If he wanted money, he could think of ways at any time. Moreover, his online clinic was about to start soon. Would he worry about not having money to earn? The middle-aged man's look obviously showed that he thought the necklace was fake, but he still bought 3 without bargaining the price. This made Yi Mo approve of him greatly. No matter how much money he had, it was still his money, and being able to spend it meant that he loved his daughters a lot. Plus, he never intended to sell the three necklaces for $600,000. $200,000, and he would be happy. Now that he sold them for $500,000, he was very satisfied. Help me package it, and tell me your card number. We'll go to the tax district together. I'll give you the money now, this middle-aged man said with satisfaction. Yi Mo just realized now that he didn't have packaging nor a card number, and couldn't help but to say, I don't have a package, and it doesn't matter if there's no packaging, I'll wear it now. Then one of the girls already put the necklace on and stuffed it inside her clothes. This necklace feels really comfortable. The girl immediately felt a spirit-cleansing sensation. The middle-aged man smiled and didn't talk. He thought that his daughter wanted to tell him that the money was spent wisely to make him feel better. Okay, but don't tell me you don't have a card number too? Looking at Yi Mo's troubled face, the middle-aged man joked. Yi Mo helplessly said, I really don't have a card number. He was indeed a povo, one. And Yen originally felt jealous hearing the girl say the necklace was comfortable. After all, she liked the necklace too. But now that she found out this person didn't even have a card, she wondered how the necklaces were made. Yi Mo only just realized that each stall had an individual for payments. Other than his stall, the cashier also had to give tax. It seemed that he was indeed a bit rushed. This necklace is quite pretty. How much? Just when the middle-aged man also didn't have a way, another person came to ask for Yi Mo's necklace. $200K. Yi Mo just sold it for $200,000. Obviously, he can't give two prices. The person asking was a youth not much older than Yi Mo. There was also a lady beside him, looking in her 50s. However, she didn't look too healthy. Mom, this necklace is quite pretty. I'll buy one for you. This youth seemed to have a filial heart. The middle-aged woman also felt that the necklace was pretty and hesitated before saying, It's quite pretty, but the price is too expensive. Although the youth didn't feel $200K was expensive, he seemed to be afraid of his mom reproaching him for wasting money. And someone else bought it just then, so it would be implausible to bargain. Looking at the porcelain bottle on Yi Mo's table, seeing it write all sorts of pills, he immediately came up with an idea and hurried to say, How about you give me a bottle of pill as well? The reason he wanted to buy the pill was to prove to his mother that he wasn't being scammed. In fact, he didn't plan to have the pill. For magic artifacts, he can adopt a tested-out attitude, but for these unknown pills, he definitely wouldn't believe it. Yi Mo could only helplessly touch his nose and say, This pill isn't a bottle of pill. There is only one in each bottle, and it's more expensive than the necklace. The production cost for these pills are indeed higher than the necklace. If he just gave it out like that, then he would be losing. Hearing Yi Mo's words, this youth was dazed. Buying a pill for him was like buying fake medicine, but it actually costed more than the necklace. That meant it was more than $200,000, and Yen felt more contemptuous towards Yi Mo. This person's heart was probably black. $200,000 for a necklace and an unknown pill sells for more than $200,000? She really wondered how the exhibition let a cheat like him in, although she wanted to leave more than once, but she couldn't let go of that necklace. However, she was too embarrassed to drop her dignity to buy it. You're saying that this pill costs more than $200,000? Although he was rich, the youth was still shocked that one pill costed $200,000. He came here knowing that the price wouldn't be cheap, but $200,000 was too horrible. What pill is this, actually costing more than $200,000? An old man on the side heard, and immediately came up to look at the porcelain bottles on Yi Mo's stall. Including the middle-aged man and his two daughters, there was more and more people coming to Yi Mo's stall. This necklace is so pretty. I also want one. How much? Another woman younger than 30 came here. Yi-Mo couldn't help but to sigh that his necklace was really attractive to women. However, although this woman had a good body that could even be described as busty, her face really couldn't be praised. It wasn't to say that her face looked bad. Her face was not bad, but in fact, having this sense of mature woman. However, what made people not want to look at her again was that there were so many spots, and they weren't those teenage acne. Although she wore shades, those spots couldn't be covered. One could imagine that if she didn't have those spots on her face, this would be a pretty lady. Everyone loved beauty, and although her face wasn't so good, she still liked the pretty necklace. Yi-Mo smiled and said, "Actually, madam, I think you should buy this pill of mine more." Then Yi-Mo took out a bottle and said, "This is a beauty pill. Only one is enough to make your face smooth and shiny like jade. However, the price is a little more expensive than the necklace." Really, the woman immediately grabbed the bottle. Although she was dubious, that desperation already betrayed her thoughts. Yi-Mo smiled once again. "Sister, I think that if you can afford a $200,000 necklace, then you shouldn't care about this $200,000 pill. Just think of it as buying yourself an opportunity. You can earn money, but you may not have this chance again. Of course, I won't force you to buy it. Decide for yourself, but there is only this chance. I won't be coming here to sell pills again." Yi-Mo suddenly realized that he was very persuasive. If he went to do business, perhaps he would really have potential. "Okay, I'll have one of your necklace card." That youth who came with his mom saw that so many people were interested in Yi-Mo's things and finally made up his mind and picked up a necklace. Before Yi-Mo said anything, that woman said immediately, "Okay, I'll have your pill. You're right. Even if you're a cheat, I will still give myself a chance. As for the necklace, I'll also—" Wait, a voice suddenly interrupted this woman. An old man in his 70s walked over and bowed to Yi-Mo before continuing saying, "Patron, may I look at your necklace?" Yi-Mo turned around and looked at that woman and said, "Sister, do you want this? If you want it, it's yours. If not, I'm giving it to this monk." "Yes, of course I want it." "I want the pill and the necklace too," the woman hurried and said. The old man hurried and said, "Female patron, may I have a look first?" Hearing the old monk say this, the woman could only give it over. The old monk took it and looked. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened it, but his eyes were getting brighter and brighter. After a while, he said, "Female patron, is it possible for you to give it to me? I'll pay 300K. What? Not only this woman was shocked, but also the people around her. To be honest, up until now, everyone has been buying the necklace because it looked pretty. The people around wasn't short of that money. Did this old monk buy this necklace because it was pretty too? One povo colloquial way of saying someone is very poor in derogatory manner. Chapter 123. Not Ancient Martial Arts. Chapter 123. Not Ancient Martial Arts and Yen, who had been standing on the side, froze too. Someone actually wants to pay 300K for a necklace? But she immediately reacted, and she contemptuously said, "You can just tell they are working together, not professional at all." However, the youth beside her seriously said, "They aren't working together. I know that old monk. He is from that ancient stall. He seemed to be from Juyin Temple. This sort of people would never do such a thing. It seems that the necklace may really be magic artifact." "Ah," and Yen exclaimed. She didn't expect the person to increase the price would be an old monk from an ancient stall. This was a clear sign that Yi-Mo's items were real. "How about I buy one for you?" This youth knows that Yen really liked the necklace and wanted to please her. Seeing her expression, he said immediately, "Okay, I want one, but—" And Yen had been wanting one, but she just couldn't do it for the sake of her dignity. However, she didn't expect things to turn out like this. The product she thought to be fake actually became popular now. She immediately thought that this necklace was gone. Otherwise, why would the old monk fight over one with the woman? Yi Mo didn't expect to find someone who knew his stuff, but he already sold his item to this woman and wouldn't sell it to the second person. Seeing the woman look over, Yi Mo said immediately, "You came first, you pay." At this moment, everyone around understood that the old monk came from the ancient stall. Even he came to buy Yi Mo's item. So this meant that Yi Mo's items were real. At this moment, more and more people came to Yi Mo's stall. That middle-aged man also realized that he earned big. So he quickly came up to Yi Mo and said, "If you believe me, I'll give you check, and I can help you do the tax." Yi Mo didn't care that much to begin with. It was good as long as he got the money, and he indeed didn't have a card. Hearing this middle-aged man say this, the woman and the youth also conformed. Yi Mo was by himself. He couldn't leave with these people. However, they all had their morals. When they left to do the tax, they didn't take the items away. The youth with an yen came up immediately and said to Yi Mo politely, "Friend, do you have any more of those necklaces? Can you sell one to me? Or we can order one, of course, the price is no problem." Yi Mo saw that the annoying woman didn't come up and felt a little better, but immediately replied, "Sorry, the necklace is gone, and you can't order them. A master told me to sell it for him. It's gone after this 5. Hearing Yi Mo's words, not only the youth was disappointed, but also in yen. She really regretted not buying one for 100K. However, more and more people were asking about it. The youth saw that Yi Mo had indeed ran out, and could only set his eyes on the two who bought it just then. They had one each in their family. He wondered if they could sell one for her. Thinking about this, the youth said to the girl, "Hello, you bought 3 necklaces. Could you sell one to me? I can pay $100,000 extra." The girl immediately raised the corner of her mouth, saying annoyedly, "Do you think I'm someone who is missing your $100,000? The people around could tell that the girl indeed didn't need that $100,000. Yi Mo sighed to himself. It seemed that the brand power of ancient character was effective. He could sell 3 to the middle-aged man purely due to luck. However, the people who came later was due to the old monk and his brand. At this moment, the old monk was still investigating the pills inside Yi Mo's bottle. He kept sniffing and even asked if Yi Mo could take it out for him to see. Of course, Yi Mo wouldn't mind. The old monk helped him advertise. Although he pretty much sold his necklace, he was still grateful towards the old monk. The middle-aged man and the woman, as well as the youth, had all come. However, the middle-aged man had a 2 million check for Yi Mo and said, "The other 2 have given me the money, and I helped you get a check. I've paid the tax for you already too." Yi Mo had an even better impression of the middle-aged man. He was probably afraid that Yi Mo would be tricked and took the money and helped Yi Mo get a check. It could be seen that he was a person of morality. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing this. Yi Mo took the check and said, "Thank you. However, I don't have that much money." The middle-aged man smiled and waved. "I know. I still want to buy a few bottles of your pill. See how much pills I can buy with the rest of the money, and just give me a few bottles." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the old monk said before Yi Mo could say anything, "Patron, I'll have the rest of the pills. Name your price." It seemed that the old monk was afraid the other people would buy the rest, and instead talked first. Indeed, as soon as the old monk talked, people on the side started to regret. Yi Mo smiled. "Okay, 200K a pill then. However, I'm not a patron. I'll be taking money." Yi Mo knew that out of all the people here, he was probably the poorest, but he didn't feel it to be necessary to charge more. Yi Mo took 4 bottles and gave it to the middle-aged man and said, "There are 2 bottles of the same emergency pill. 1 bottle of beauty pill and another bottle is for cultivation. I've written down the specifics on the paper inside the bottle. Open it yourself and look. The remaining 6 bottles were all bought by the old monk. Seeing that Yi Mo's things were really bought by the old monk, more people rushed up immediately to buy, but Yi Mo had sold everything. Seeing that even Yi Mo's pills were sold out and he was now preparing to leave, and Yen just realized she got nothing. If what the old monk said was true, then his beauty pill must really have those effects. The most important thing, however, was that necklace she wanted first was gone. This immediately made Yen feel that things were unfair and could no longer worry about her dignity. She squeezed in and said to Yi Mo, "I saw your things first. I won't ask to buy one now, but can you reserve a necklace for me?" Her tone obviously softened, now that she thought about it. She really liked that necklace, but just as the bastard said, there was only one opportunity. She could earn $200,000 again, but the opportunity wouldn't come back. Now, even the middle-aged man felt that Yen was being ridiculous. She just said that Yi Mo's things were trash worth only a few $100s, but now she was asking to order. He could not help but to shake his head. Luckily, he didn't heed to this woman's words, otherwise he would really be regretting. Yi Mo really wanted to pre-order and go back to continue making them, but he knew that this thing could only stop now. He could still make excuses now, but if he made too much, it would be hard to explain. Plus, this thing has been exposed too much due to that old monk. Thinking about this, Yi Mo could only say, "Really sorry, but I'm selling these for someone else. As for whether there will be more, I really can't guarantee. Perhaps I will sell more next exhibition, but it mainly depends on whether there will be more products." Yi Mo didn't seal the deal. After all, this money was too easy to earn. Perhaps he would need money again and could come back to earn another round. And this exhibition happened every year. It was just held at different places. Seeing Yi Mo say this, many people walked away in disappointment. Although they were disappointed, they didn't regret too much. After all, it was just a magic artifact. No one had really seen its powers. However, only the middle-aged man and the old monk didn't leave. Even Yen left in anger, cursing Yi Mo countless times. "I'm Ijua, I'm running a few companies, and this is my card. If you need any help, please ask." Then Ijua took out his card. His many years of experience in the business industry made him feel that Yi Mo wasn't an ordinary person. Thus, he wanted to connect with him, so he left a card. Yi Mo didn't have a card, nor did he have a phone, so he could only say something polite. After waiting for a while, Yi Mo didn't give him a name card. Although Ijua was disappointed, he saw that the old monk wanted to talk to Yi Mo, so he could only take his 2 daughters and leave. "Dad, this is the first time I see you give a name card, but the person didn't give one back," one of the girls following Ijua said. "Sister, you're wrong. It's not that this person doesn't want to give a card to Dad. See, he didn't even have a bank card. How can he have a name card? I think he probably doesn't even have a phone. Perhaps this thing really was made by a master living in the mountains who gave it to him to sell." The other girl immediately rebuked. Ijuha's eyes brightened up. He immediately realized that Yi Mo quite possibly didn't have name card, and wasn't that he didn't want to be connected to him. Then he couldn't help but to pat the head of the girl and say, "Amichum, Yen is right. He doesn't look like an arrogant person. He is truly a master. And you too need to remember to wear your necklace at all times." Seeing the middle-aged man leave with his 2 girls and Yi Mo's stall was empty, the old monk said, "I'm Wu Guang from Juyun Temple. What is your surname, patron?" Yi Mo thought and looked at the small ancient character at the edge of the old monk's sleeve and asked, "May I ask, Elder Wu Guang, if you're from the ancient martial arts sects?" The old monk nodded and said, "Ancient martial arts isn't easy. They usually don't come into the world. I'm just a normal monk in Juyun Temple. However, I came to this exhibition to help some ancient martial arts sects to sell some things. I do have a few things I wish to inquire, patron. Do you have time, patron? Yi Mo was greatly disappointed. So the people here weren't really from the ancient martial arts sects, but those who came to sell their things. It seemed it would be hard for him to ask about Luo Susu. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.